Schools to introduce this work session. Dr. Mabenga?
All right, thank you, Dr. Evan Bond. We are really delighted to be here. Again, our apologies to all our guests. We had a little bit technical glitches here. That's why we're starting about 6 minutes late. But without further ado, I'm going to pass this to board member Wright so that it will introduce our guest. Then we'll move on to our agenda.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Mubanga, for this, for allowing me to present today. Thank you to Dr. Evans Brown for allowing me to present today in representation of the School Safety Committee. I'm joined here with Chief Macy, Chief Patterson. Do we have Chief AG on here? I don't see he's on here. We have our new Chief, Ms. Shields. Nice to meet you. We've been doing some incredible work behind the scenes, having conversations, moving needles forward to make sure that we have positive outcomes for our students, and we're keeping our students, families, and teachers and staff safe in our school buildings. So basically today we just wanted to have a conversation with the full board, allow Chief Patterson, Chief Macy, our new Chief Shields to come on, present, talk, and then give the full board and the superintendent some space to ask questions. Without ado, Chief Macy, you can go ahead and take the floor.
Board member Wright, if you don't mind, can we take this point of privilege to welcome our new commissioner, Erica Shield. Thank you for joining us. We know that you just arrived in town, but thank you for really willing to come and join us in this meeting. I know as we're going to do introduction, if a board member Wright, you don't mind, I will let our Commissioner Shield to be the first one to introduce yourself.
Thank you, sir. Erica Shields, and thank you for including me. I have an enormous amount of respect for what you all do, and I really want our department to be a great partner and to help and meet your needs. And I look forward to getting up to speed on what the schools want and need from BPD. Please don't be offended if I go to the phone in about 15 minutes. I'm actually going to go look at someplace to live. So I'm trying to find somewhere to put my head at night. So I do apologize. You are a critical partner of ours. And thank you for allowing me to be on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Board member Wright.
Welcome. Chief Macy can have the floor. I know he's been working hard with our committee, and I know he may have updates or things that he wants to say, and then we can pass it over to Chief Patterson.
Sure, I'll give you guys an update. Thank you for the time and inviting the commissioner and myself. Since our last actual formal meeting, we have changed our SRO chief. Chief AG is in. I think that everybody will be very happy with his work and dedication to this job. And we're also going to be having another lieutenant that's going to be starting this week as well. So there is some change. There's going to be 2 more officers that are also going to be added. So we will be at full staffing for the SRO program. And we're looking at some nationally certified training to get them all going through at the beginning of the summer, sometime in June. So it's going to be either them going to Pennsylvania. We'll send them all to get a certification, or we're going to host the training. We're working through that piece as well. So one of Commissioner Shields' big pushes is training, and we're going to get that piece done. In the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple incidents around schools that have triggered a response. And when you look at it, I think that we've done a better job of communicating. Chief AG has been very involved with the principals. There was a shots fired incident outside of a school. Again, had nothing to do with the school. That school, out of precaution, went into lockdown. Chief AG was in touch with the principal. There was a lot of dialogue about what was going on. And then there's been just regular discussions that from my understanding, we've gotten a lot of good feedback that weren't happening before. So I'm looking forward to, again, as the commissioner said, meeting the school's needs and being a good partner.
Just to hop in off the commissioner, as Chief AG, I apologize. I'm actually on my last day of vacation, so I just hello to everybody, but I'm just kind of working through it. As the commissioner said, so we have to try to increase and improve dialogue between schools and the BPD. And what I've then done, even though the principals meeting is scheduled for the 19th, I just kind of took a collective approach and been going around visiting some schools. I haven't met with them all yet. As just within the sheer amount. But I have been gradually making my way through the school district and making introductions and just providing clarification and answering any questions about the SRO program and clearing up any misunderstandings that have been going on.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Patterson, would you like to add to this?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
For those who don't know me specifically, Commissioner Shields, welcome to Buffalo and your new position. My name is Brian Patterson. I'm the police chief of the NFTA Transit Police Department. I did 20 years with Buffalo PD and also served as the chief of the business district for Buffalo PD and retired in 2016. So welcome to the remaining body. Good evening. I do want to take about 2 minutes and kind of use my opportunity to create a framework for what we're trying to do at the NFTA in terms of working with our high school students. Specifically, our mission is to ensure that kids get back and forth to school safely. I mean, to put it bluntly, we want our kids to get back and forth, get on the bus or the trains and get where they got to go, A to B, and be safe in doing so. As a father of 3 boys that all went to Buffalo Public Schools, this is I have skin in the game, so to speak. So the opportunity to be a police chief allows me to kind of see safety through the lens of a parent and law enforcement official. What I'm going to do is dive in. I've decided to kind of dive into the challenges right away and then work my way back with what we're doing about it and some ideas for how I think we can improve things. Our biggest challenges in the system with students in terms of their commuting is smoking weed in or on the subway. Kids, they love this marijuana, and whenever they can get an opportunity to light up a marijuana joint, they find ways to do so. The second big challenge is loitering in and around the stations with no legitimate purpose, but that always creates an opportunity for loitering, for fighting, loitering, for intimidating, bullying. So as we understand the loitering, we have room for that, but we're very concerned about what the loitering leads to. And the third biggest challenge is fighting in the system. We have a 6-mile subway system. And starting from the DL&W subway station going all the way up to University is a 6-mile system. And 10,000 kids enter that system every morning and every afternoon. And they enter the system from all points. Our hotspots, and this is kind of a law enforcement term we use, but it's been used enough that I think you understand. It's places where we think the challenges that I just spoke of are going to be more common. We call them our hotspots. Our hotspots are the Utica Station, LaSalle Station, Amherst Station, Allen Station, and University Station. In the month of April, our officers responded to 28 instances of smoking marijuana. That's just what we reported. 20 instances of loitering, and we have 4 fights recorded that happened in the system. To deter these occurrences, I've tried to put together a deployment structure that unfortunately and with great anxiety does not allow us to be ubiquitous. One of the things that's troubling for me is I need officers to be everywhere at once, and it's impossible. So what we've tried to do is rely on a few tried and true strategies in law enforcement. One is called, hotspot policing. So we pay attention to track data, track our fights, our smoke, and we track them carefully. I put together a team of school resource officers. We have 4 to 6 school resource officers, and we send them out to the hotspots during the time that we think certain activity is going to occur. In addition to that, where we find kids, especially chronic violators, we also work to, like Buffalo PD, we work to establish relationships with the schools to kind of manage the behaviors we're getting in the system. Number wise, I have four school resource officers. Sometimes we go to 6. I have 6 school detail officers, 2 subway officers, 2 roving officers. What does that mean to you? I have at any given
Chief, can
time.
you say, I'm sorry, Chief, could you say how many of those officers are BPD graduates? Because I think that's one of the things I'm thinking as you're talking. My name is Board Member Rodriguez, and I'm from the West Side. Just wondering, out of the folks that you're deploying, and again, very law enforcement focused language, how many of them are BPD graduates, sir?
Yeah, I don't know how many of our officers are Buffalo Police Department graduates.
I'm sorry, Buffalo Public School graduates.
Okay, Buffalo Public
Thank you,
Schools.
sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do not know how many of our officers are Buffalo Public School graduates. I imagine I could get that. Wouldn't be hard getting that information.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, so I can get that information. But our school resource officers are certified in working with students. So they've received training, and we screen them. I screen them for the ability to bring certain skill sets to bear in terms of working with students. So these aren't just, hey, sign in if sign up if you want to get on, and we're spending time making sure I'm hand selecting my school resource team. So I'm not there are no barriers in terms of civil service rules. I can pick my team according to their strengths. And our school resources know our school teachers. We have a relationship, and with charter schools as well, but we have a relationship with them. The detail officers are officers that we assign, and they voluntarily come in on overtime to post at certain stations, and their assignment is different than school resource officers. Our school resource officers are tasked with getting to know the students. We kind of fancy them as a wraparound officer. They're not just in the space directing kids; they're getting to know the kids. In fact, I had one of my school resource officers, Officer George Cathcart. We had a small conversation the other day, and he was talking about how a certain student's behavior improved just because of the relationship they have established. So not to beat a dead horse, but our school resource officers are more than just an officer in a vest. There's a certain amount of buy-in and skin in the game that they have. I did run through those numbers kind of quickly, and I'm slowing down for the board member that just asked about the officers. We have 2 subway officers. Their job is to jump on the trains, ride the train, and to enforce and make sure that students are abiding by the rules of conduct. And then I have 2 roving officers, and their job is to respond to fights above ground, station to station. So what we've tried to do is put together, imagine, if you will, a team, for lack of a better way of describing it, with certain responsibilities. Chief among them being the school resource officers establishing relationships. And our strategy is simple: police presence at hotspots during high commute times. We also, in addition to police officers, we contract with peacemakers So there's a layered approach where we're bringing in community members, and I'm going to assume that most folks on this call are familiar with the peacemakers. There's an added value with them. They're also out at the subway stations, and the reason we want them there for obvious reasons. The students relate differently to certain types of supervision. So the peacemakers do a very good job of de-escalating, talking to the students. They bring a skill set to bear that's sometimes overlaps and sometimes it's a little different from officers. And so we want that layered approach. Lastly, we also work closely with Buffalo Public School Security. We have a tremendous amount of respect for Buffalo Public School Security officers because we also understand that the students relate to them differently. So they are intermittently in the system at times to help us conduct. Sometimes we conduct pass integrity checks. We bring them in so that we have this layered approach to monitoring and managing the behavior. Our challenges are pretty straightforward. There are more students than adult supervision during these high commute times. There's just more of them. And so in addition to being more, the challenges that I've mentioned, the top three, don't happen linear. There's a site. Sometimes we get fights happening at Fountain Plaza at the same time a fight is happening at Amherst. So our span of control, a law enforcement term, our ability to control and manage behavior is not as tight as we'd like it, or the paper, or the plan of action that we have in place is as much as I'd like to. Oftentimes we are very stressed between 3 and 5. So much so that I just finished breaking up a fight. Just before the call, I helped officers break up a fight at Utica Station. It just took place about 30 minutes ago. In addition to that, the students are savvy. By the way, I probably should have prefaced my remarks with 85%, 90% of our students go home, A to B. Maybe even upwards of 94, 95%. Our students are just trying to get home. It's a small percentage of students that are using the system for other than transportation needs. Our students coordinate fights. One of the board members witnessed a fight, and which was the impetus for this kind of presentation. The students know where there's going to be supervision sometimes, and they will choose a fight site that is near a subway station, or in the downtown area, they find gaps in supervision and they'll choose sites there. And then lastly, if I was sitting in the living room with you folks and we all had knew each other for 10 or 15 years, I would blatantly say that I believe there's an opportunity for a more uniformed, a system that was more uniformed in terms of corrective action. And I say that very carefully because I don't know what that really looks like to the members and the professionals on this Zoom call. But there needs to be a more effective response and consequences for certain behaviors. And there are gaps in that. And I'm open to talk about what those look like. Lastly, I apologize. I know I can hear my long-windedness. I got it from my father. He's moved on now, but he was a long-winded man. I apologize. Actually, I think I'm going to stop now. I think I've covered just about what I want to have, and I'll return it back to the moderator.
Can I ask a question, Chief Patterson? Hi, I'm Janita Everhart,
Yes.
board member.
Yes.
So, do you have data that supports the 95% of the students that go home, and that the 5% are kind of just the ones that kind of hang around and figure out things to do? Do you guys collect data?
Yeah, that's a very 95% that go home. That's more of kind of, I don't have data that says 95% of the kids go straight home.
Right.
I
You
have,
just
yeah, I'm using a practitioner's experience,
right.
using what my school resource officers bring back, and more importantly,
I was just asking just in terms of like figuring out how to do programming because what
yes.
I'm seeing is like an uptick of like DV among our teens. And
Mm.
I'm just wondering like what can we do? Because I think with the suspensions and with the behaviors you guys are seeing and behaviors that's happening in school, it really just is emotional, like not being able to control those emotional intelligence, and that could be taught, and programming. And so I don't know if I know when I was growing up, there was some type of police programming for teens. I don't know if you guys have a budget for that. You're transit, of course, so I don't know if Buffalo Police has a budget for that to kind of implement some type of programming around that. I know I did speak with the peacemakers and I did ask them the same question, but I don't think they are as organized as like you said, if this was a more, intimate thing, I would tell them personally, I don't think they are as organized as they could be because when a fight happens, we need to take the names, we need to do some type of restorative thing, we need to talk to the parents, we need to figure out how often that happens, we need to figure out who this kid is, and then offer some type of resources. And then you did say that two of your officers are like they kind of like do wraparound. Now, do you do referrals or do you have a budget for that?
So a couple, if I could peel the orange back for the couple things. First of all, my knee jerk response to um, conflict resolution skills is, we're two thumbs up. If we
Right.
can get, this was kind of me. I was gonna wait to talk about the opportunities that exist. I
Okay.
think there, I do think there needs to be a partnership. I did read the resumes of the board members. There's an extreme amount of talent amongst this board, and so I'm
Thank you.
anticipating these questions. Well, one, I'm excited about that talent because I do believe there's a multi-pronged approach
Mm-hmm.
outside of law enforcement.
Right. Right.
Outside of law enforcement, but yet and still here we are, law enforcement to some degree set up to play a certain role, but being asked to do some other things. And here's where we're not waving a white flag. We're saying a partnership is necessary. Conflict resolution, very fascinating. You talked about domestic violence, but definitely conflict resolution. I'm seeing some of that. In the schools, certain schools are taking it upon themselves to kind of channel off. Even the peacemakers, Pastor Giles will tell you that he has some programming around that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we stand ready to strengthen those relationships from the transit police standpoint, because I
Right.
do believe that's a big deal. The second question, your second comment was percentages. We'd have to go back. I have to think about that. What percentages I could get to you so that it could make sense with some of the things you talked about. What was the other observation you made?
It was the wraparound services. You said you have two officers that kind of offer that wraparound feel. Now, what does that look as? Is that like referrals?
Yeah,
Is there a budget?
that was my school resource officers.
School resource officers?
Well,
Okay.
the vision for the school resource officers is probably somewhat in tandem. I don't want to speak for Buffalo PD, but that's where I'm from. So the idea behind the school resource officer um, is to not just break down a conflict and send everybody along.
Right.
We don't do that, and to some degree, not speaking for the school resource officers from other agencies, but the ideology behind the school resource officers is to make connections.
Right.
So break down a conflict, detain, report, and then work with schools to come up with a solution. Here's the challenge. Detaining is not as easy when officers come into a conflict where 30 kids are there's 30, 40 kids and there's fighting happening outside a subway station. And let's
Right.
say there might even be only 6 or 7 kids fighting, but
Mm-hmm.
there's 30 or 40 watching. When the police pull up, the students scatter.
Scatter. Right. So you don't know who was fighting.
So it's very difficult. And now we have to kind of sort out what's happening.
Right.
And so that's one challenge. And that we're working on. We don't run from the challenge, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that was not a big challenge, because I've sat in many sessions where it's kind of, well, why don't you just do this? And it's not that
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
And they're
So
pretty organized, the kids, especially with their phones after school. So a lot
that's
more organized than we were in the late 90s, to where we didn't have cell phones. If
we
a
didn't have
fight
cell phones.
happened, it was like the biggest thing of the day, to where now they can kind of hotspot it, where they're all over the place with it. Yeah.
The last thing, and then I'll be quiet. Friday afternoon, I peacemakers notify me. Buffalo Police notifies me. There's a flyer. Someone's made a professional flyer about in an hour and a half. We're taking over Utica Station. It's 2:30 when I get this. And Chief Champion from Buffalo PD, Pastor
Mm-hmm.
Charles, sent me this flyer. And we come to find out we get things in place, and it's kind of a swatting flyer. There's nothing going on. But
Huh.
I've pulled resources. So these are some of the challenges that I wanted to use this forum to talk about, to just show you how there's no silver bullet response.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Rodriguez, you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I had a couple. Thank you so much, Vice President Everhart. Chief, I wondered, on average, what is the wait time for our students and constituents at the hotspots that you acknowledged? And the reason that I'm asking that question is I'm wondering if, to Vice President Everhart's point, if there's something that they could contribute while they're there, whether it be a volunteer cleanup. If we know that the students are going to be there for a half an hour and 40 minutes, we want to make sure we're not criminalizing them being in public spaces. But I think my concern would be just on average what that commute wait time looks like, to have a better idea of how to best resource the situation.
20 right now, 20-minute wait time between trains, because we have some construction work. We're repairing some tracks. So right now, the short answer is 20-minute wait times between subway trains. And you're right. I'd like those trains to run every 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Growing up was idle time is the devil's workshop. This is something I grew up with. I don't know if that fits, but you're talking about idle time. I wasn't I have 3 sons in Buffalo public school system. I don't get crazy about kids loitering.
Mm-hmm.
Loitering is I have to be very careful how I use that term, because I know it evokes different images for some of us.
Yeah, they're hanging out. We all know that. They don't get to
Hey,
talk
hanging
much
out.
in school. Yeah, they don't get to talk in school. Sometimes, the teachers are like silent lunch, or, so
They're hanging
after
out.
school, yeah, and then all the high schools get to come together. Your friend down the street probably don't go to your high school, so they're just hanging out.
That's
And
right.
Chief, I wondered, just to move on to my next question, because I often have several, Chief, and this
Okay.
is the first time we're meeting with
Okay.
your team that works directly with Buffalo Public Schools, specifically because I'm a bilingual speaker. I wonder how many of them are bilingual, and if that's something that we can continue conversations around. And then my last question, and doesn't need to be answered immediately, would be, if I was a Buffalo Public School student and I wanted to volunteer to kind of bring an additional element of good into the public spaces as my colleagues were waiting, how would we channel them? Like, I'm kind of thinking safety patrol kind of vibe, but I know that that might be best done with the peacemakers, just looking for an opportunity for those who may be interested in law enforcement, who are BPS students, who would already be there, Chief, to be able to provide some assistance.
Yeah, love that. Love the observations. My first comment, you say you're bilingual. What's your second language?
My question, sir, was if your
If my help.
team speak any other
Yeah,
languages.
you said you were
But my
bilingual.
last name is Rodriguez, sir.
Okay, I didn't know if you spoke. I
Oh
didn't
no,
want
I'm
to.
just that's my version of a joke.
Okay,
Yeah.
listen. In my business, I cannot assume.
Understood, and I appreciate the question.
Tú hablas español. I see. So I am recruiting officers that are bilingual, specifically in Spanish, because that is a very common first or second language. And so to answer your question, I have one officer that I know is fluent in Spanish, and hopefully I'll be hiring another. So that'll be two, but we want to improve that. So that's to answer your first question. I apologize. I was also being lighthearted. I equally was being lighthearted. I love this concept of peer volunteers. I love that. I love that. I was last night. I was thinking about that. I said, I was thinking of kind of a peer court where if you behaved a certain way, your peers, your student peers, you go to a peer court. So kind of, I think we're in the same area, but a peer volunteer, peer patrols, I don't think we throw that away. I think that's something that I would love to explore with you.
Thank you, Chief. Because I was aware that I think at one time that NFTA had like a public safety program where they were training young people, as many of the law enforcement agencies do. That was like 10 plus years ago, but I would love to continue to be part of the conversation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chief Patterson, good afternoon. Board Member Hawkins here.
Yes, good morning, sir. Or good afternoon, sir.
All right. Now we know, I mean, realistically, man, these kids do not respect the peacemakers. They just don't. I was at Amherst Station, and it was a congregation about 30, 40 students, and they had took the peacemakers walkie-talkie from me. And it wasn't even a patrol car visible in plain sight at the station. Maybe another fight was going on that he got called away from that post. Like you mentioned, sometimes the fights happen at the same time. So how can we supervise transit zones a little bit more better? Do we need a more school staff presence, a better NFTA support as far as that? We need more cameras, more lighting. How can we have more structure as far as the pickup zones?
I appreciate you, Board Member Hawkins, for your observations. So my first thought, peacemakers, the concept has value. The purpose has value where you have a community, nonviolent coalition of community members that want to help out. That's the philosophy of the peacemakers. Individually, bringing on the right talent takes time to build a team. You lose some good people, you get some good people. I've been and I probably sound defensive, and give me room to sound a little defensive of them, only because I have been working with them for over 10, 15 years, especially in Buffalo PD, and they do, with the right talent in place, can do some very, very good work. They've helped me get guns out of bags at Gusmacker. They've helped me identify gang members that Buffalo police officers didn't know. So there's value in their model. They do at times have to have the right personnel, and it's like anything else. You have to let some people go. You got to bring some people on, and you have to have the right training. So I think with the right accountability and the right support, that model is still useful. Officers, I read your letter carefully, and I did not like the words you had to say, but they were your observations, and I appreciated them. And people need to be blunt in how they feel about certain things. And what I wanted to say, and that was really why we're here today, is because I wanted to give you an understanding of what our structure looks like. To the point, some of our officers are underground. That fight that happened at Amherst, officers had left to handle something at another station, and when the fight came out, we're heading back that way. That's back to that span of control that we're challenged with. I followed that call and looked at the time. So if officers were 4 minutes, that fight came out, officers were 4 minutes away. 4 minutes is a lifetime though, when you're watching a fight, and much less when you're in one, because most fights are over in about a minute and a half. It's just when it's happening, it looks very, very crazy. So what we need to do better is bring together, I think, Buffalo Public School security. My wish list is to have more Buffalo Public School security at stations during dismissal times. More specifically, I'd love to see a small team of Buffalo Public School officers from key schools like Bennett, from a couple, Bennett, McKinley, there are Buffalo Public School security guards who know these kids. I would love to see a team of them come together and actually deploy out to the stations alongside our transit officers. I think we could have a big impact because the kids respond differently if they respect, and you really talking about respect. Find these kids, the students, the officials that the students respect, get a team of them together and get them out to the stations. We've seen that when we do what we call integrity checks. So there is added value in having kind of a multi-team approach to adult supervision at the stations.
I would definitely like that. So it's basically like a BPS NFTA task force for after school. I would like that, and I think something like that would help strengthen the peacemakers. You know, it
Yes,
gives the
I agree.
peacemakers more support. It'll give the peacemakers more support. So, I mean, yeah, that is definitely a great suggestion. I don't know how that would work with, you know, our security officers forming a task force with NFTA. So, I mean, yeah, let's see what that could look like.
We
I
got,
appreciate
we got board member Scott who has a question. His hand is up.
Thank you, board member Wright. So thank you, Chief Patterson, for being here. I don't see the BPD folks here anymore, but if they are still here, thank you for being here. Appreciate the collaboration and improved communication between BPD, NFTA, and Buffalo Public Schools. In regards to security and the idea or suggestion for using BPS security, I believe we are entering, and maybe Chief Barnes, if he's there, can correct me if I'm wrong. We're entering a new contract with NFTA that is quite costly to Buffalo Public Schools. And if there was a plan to use BPS security, would then NFTA be paying for that security? Because we already invest quite a bit in our security force to attend to matters in our schools and our events, after school events and weekend activities.
above my pay grade. That's the short answer. So,
Smart guy.
well, two things I will say about money. Sometimes we talk money and we automatically start there and we write out what great ideas, the possibility of great ideas. I don't know who pays for what. I do know that input from Buffalo Public School security, whether you guys understand that and decide to frame that as added responsibility, or whether however it's framed, people way smarter than me can craft that together. What I will say is students respond differently to Buffalo Public School security. By and large, we see that in the system. You know, the way I would describe the vision was back in the day, we had truant officers. I don't know if we still have those. These are officers that, you know, would go into the system, sweep stragglers. So it would be on par with that attached to the Buffalo Public Schools security, going into the system, looking after Buffalo Public School kids. Part of that is also understanding and accepting, if you will, that the Buffalo Public School students' school day starts when they leave the house, and the commute is part of the school behavior and rule of conduct. Now that's a mindset that you have to buy into, but that would open the door in terms of who's responsible for what as you build this out.
Yes.
Board member Rodriguez.
Thank you. Chief, so I appreciate your perspective there, but my view is that they're shared constituents as their parents pay taxes. My view is also not to censor anyone, but not to overgeneralize our students, and a subjective thing that could be measured like respect. We have tools that would help us better understand the experience of Buffalo Public School students and your constituents as they use public transit. And I just wondered if you've ever surveyed them, or whether you'd be interested in, or if whether your body would be able to generate questions that could help us better understand their perspective, in terms of what services, or whether it be a bookmobile or a bookshelf inside the train station, Chief, what we would be able to supplement as a body to be able to engage and better support them during that wait time. I'm also acutely aware that there are students that are homeless that use the train stations of places of resource, and I would definitely like to lift up their experiences, of which intersect with my professional experience, and just say I think that's a different conversation we need to have as a part of the larger conversation about how do we handle the times of mass transit.
Yeah, I also I appreciate your observations. My mission is to get kids back and forth to school safely. And I care about all kids, no matter what their circumstance is, um, no matter their background. My mission is very narrow in that way. However, I am open to a wide range of ideas on how to do that. I'm a big fan of CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, which you all have heard of. And you're really talking about programming spaces so that when students enter a space, they have the space has been programmed in a way to improve student behavior. Um, Case in point, last year I came up with an innovation called Rhythm on the Rails. Okay, and here's what we did. And we pulled it off a couple years. We reached out to churches and said, hey, during Christmas time, would you be willing to have your choir, your church choirs come down and sing in our stations? And let me tell you, it was a fascinating thing. Down the street, Bishop Badger had half his family's on the they can sing, so they came down and sang at Utica. But it picked up, and so even public schools started bringing their bands down. I think you're somewhat talking about that. So that's me using CPTED concepts to program space. I'm all for that. Bringing recruiters in, books. You mentioned books. How about professionals taking the time out of their day and say, hey, this is what's happening on the rail. Professionals from this background are going to be at this station, and be at that station during time where kids let out, to try to give them range in terms of their commuting experience. I'm all for that.
Thank you, sir. And I'm excited about the singing. I'm sure that you had less activity at that time. And then my last question, and this is one that obviously we would have to discuss at greater length with Dr. Mubenga and our cabinet and our fellow board members, is have we ever surveyed the students about their experience? And would you be willing to help us formulate questions that could help us better understand how to best serve them?
I
Thank
don't
you.
think we've ever surveyed students. I love that. We send our school resource officers to the schools at the beginning of the year, that kind of that orientation, and we do a kind of a spiel, rules of conduct. We love you, but you got to love us back. Let's love each other on the rails. We do that. But a survey is very specific. We haven't done that. We'd be open to that.
Thank you, sir. I'm very encouraged by our conversation.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any other board members? I think Chief Macy is still on here, but I think he might have stepped away, but we have Chief Patterson still. If not, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Mubenga.
I'm still on if you need anything.
Any other questions?
How many resource officers do you have?
We fluctuate 4 to 6. Usually we have 6 officers. right, I'm always, I'm trying to get to 6 officers. That's our number. Right now we're sitting at 4, but that's all has to do with recruitment, officers in the academy. But in terms of the number that we rely on is 6.
And Chief Macy, Chief Patterson gave us his 3 challenges. Can you share your top 3 challenges?
Good question. So three challenges is I would say not necessarily specifically a challenge, something we want to improve on. How about we do improves? Could we do
Okay,
that? All
sure.
right. So three improves to expand and improve on our relationships with the board, the staff, and everything that revolves around security, right? I think that we can do a better job, and we're working towards that. Another improve or expansion on there was the question for Chief Patterson with pathways programs. We spend a lot of time and resources on that. And I think that those types of programs, we have a partnership with Pathways. And I think that is one of the reasons why you can see the sharp declines in gun violence, right? So there is a lot of wraparound resources that is true wraparound doing if they're involved in runaways, chronic runaways, if they're involved in gun violence, if they're present for gun violence. We're getting a lot more resources to kids through other partnerships. That's helped, but again, I think that we can continue to improve on that. There's momentum there, so I'm a big fan of those types of initiatives and projects. So that's a improve. And then I think just a very generalized blanket statement, community partnerships, every chance that we can get one, that's a new partnership and another chance to improve on an existing one. It helps across the board, right? Like the questions that were all asked, super reasonable to ask. Some of the stuff I would imagine both agencies are already doing. I know that we are, but maybe sometimes we don't do a good enough job at pushing out some of the initiatives that we have that are not law enforcement, historical law enforcement initiatives, right? Like the diversion programs or
Right,
the wraparound services, things of that
right.
nature. And it makes a big difference for everybody, right? Especially, like some of the problems we've had historically, you don't arrest your way out of these problems. And
That's correct.
as
Yeah,
Chief Patterson said, there's a lot of other things that are contributing to some of these problems um,
right.
that aren't necessarily police problems, but the result ends up involving the police, right? So um, so I think there's a lot of people on the same page on this call. It's just a matter of fine tuning how we proceed.
Yep. And are you aware of any resources that you may have or may be able to get for programming?
Oh yeah. So we have
Yep.
a partnership with Pathstones, and then there's job placement. We have, a community policing coordinator that would do a little bit more justice, but Pat Stones is a big one for us. That's, they do alternative to education programs, the GED stuff, job placement, um, and then the
Can you
big
share
thing for
that?
the yeah,
I'm
of
sorry.
course. Can
Can you
can
share
I
with
send you
that
the
with?
emails?
Yeah, thank you so much.
And listen, that's open for everybody on this call, right? Like it's not a we don't monopolize those resources.
Right.
If schools has a good candidate, if transit has a good candidate, because they're just maybe the ones that have the interaction, but everybody on this call will have to deal with
Yep.
um, the problem at some point, right? So
Yep.
yes, I can get you all that and how we work through that tonight or tomorrow in the email.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chief Macy.
Thank you, Chief Macy and Chief Patterson, for joining us today. I don't think we have any other questions, so I would like to hand it back over to Dr. Mbenga.
All right, thank you, Board Member Wright. Just a quick comment here for Chief Patterson. Chief Patterson, thank you for the reports and the conversation. But just in the future, if you don't mind, as you are noticing those behaviors from our students, if you can be at a point where you can capture data when those incidents is happening, which days those incidents is happening, Monday through Friday. A time we want to know, is that happening during AM or after school or PM, and locations as well. That will be helpful. I know I heard you say that about 10,000 folks taking the bus and transportation. Some of them are BPS students, others may not be BPS students. And I think if you can have that data, I think that will be also helpful for us, how we're going to be able to collaborate to be able to fix some of those, to correct some of those behaviors. So thank you so much.
Yep.
Dr. Mbenga, before we go, I think Chief Agee hand is up as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And if I could,
yes.
if I could,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Chief. If I could just quickly respond as superintendent, we have the data for what you're talking about in terms of student behavior, what school they go to, and what we've done. You need tell me where to send it, and the schools have it. Primarily the assistant principals and the principals, they have the data because we have a relationship with them. So we do have the data, and we track it monthly. So we already have that.
All right, thank you so much. If you can direct it to my office as well, that would be helpful. And I'll be able to share that with our security officers as well, having those conversations with our principals, how they can collaborate to make the system better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I heard Chief Agee wanted to make a comment.
Yes, sir. Just to piggyback off of Commissioner Macy. So we do, one of our goals, we understand that law enforcement is kind of in our background, but we're also looking to do as much, diversionary, options as possible in addition, or in lieu of, generating, criminal reports or, sending individuals through the criminal justice system via, arrests and such. So one of the issues that, what my goal is for our SROs to spend as much time in schools as possible, doing non-enforcement activities such as engaging with our youth and talking about alternatives and just really trying to redirect those types of behaviors. Another unit that I also oversee is our behavioral health team as well. So we have teams of clinicians, and that is certainly a resource that we can offer. So I have spent some time meeting around with different personnel just to see what the mental health picture or that process within BPS looks like. We certainly don't want to, to my understanding, that each school kind of coordinates with their own mental health partner. So we certainly don't want to infringe on any of those individuals as well. But what the goal would be to, essentially ascertain, what's driving these, negative behaviors or disruptive behaviors, and really trying to change that and redirect them and really point them in a direction or provide them, any resources possible. Some of the things that, a couple of things that we've researched on our own, we understand that, some of the even BPS's own internal policies, which result in, 911 being called for seemingly small violations, such as kids going AWOL, as well as fights and such. And 90% of the time, 95% of the time, by the time our school resource officers arrive on scene to break up the fight, it's usually settled and parties are separated and everything. So we're looking to really hopefully, maybe put some of those issues back in the hands of BPS to address, especially the smaller level things before they escalate, which would free up the school resource officers to do more, take a proactive approach and really engaging with the youth and the students and really just trying to redirect that disruptive behavior. But I do concur with Chief Patterson. I've witnessed firsthand there is a tremendous amount of respect for, for the that the students have with the security as they engage in security, just because they're on, they see them on a daily basis. And unfortunately, we don't have the manpower to deploy a school resource officer in every school, but we certainly make do with what we have. And, but we try to really maximize our footprint. So, truly, again, just kind of circling back and tying everything together, it is important to have those, those community resources and working with our other partners and, such as transit police, and really just trying to kind of multiply our, our footprint there.
All right, thank you, Chief AG. I look forward to seeing you next week during our principals meeting. We'll be introducing you, and we'll have more conversation. Thank you for your time today. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to VP Zulich. It's 5:01.
Good evening. Today it's my pleasure to introduce Robin Parkinson, Vice President of Education and Community Engagement with the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. The BPO is a great partner with Buffalo Public Schools. Performances at Kleinhans are one of my favorite field trips to volunteer for as a parent. Today, she is here to present about instrumental music inside of our school buildings. And if we could please all wait for questions until the conclusion of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Zulich. Is it possible to share the
I think we're
slides?
pulling it up.
Okay, I'll wait just a minute then. Does anyone in-house want a printed copy? Thank you.
This one is my for next slide, just very loudly.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Robin Parkinson. I'm here today wearing two hats. First, I am a proud parent of two boys in the Buffalo Public Schools. We've been in the district for 8 years at School 45 and more recently at City Honors. So I have a personal interest in this topic. But second, I'm representing the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra as a committed community partner, honored to continue our strong, long-standing relationship with this district. As many of you may already know, we serve all BPS students in grades K through 6 now, with annual concerts at Kleinhans, as well as a number of special programs with other schools in the district. So really working with BPS is core to the BPO's mission of serving the Buffalo community. Okay, next slide. This work I'm presenting today comes out of our desire to advocate and support for greater access to music making opportunities for our kiddos in Buffalo. Some of our core principles guiding this presentation include believing that access to the power of music is the right of every individual. And this comes straight out of the BPO strategic plan's core values. And I think how it applies in this work is that it should not matter where you live, what school district you attend, everyone should have access to music making opportunities. Next slide. We're here to advocate for building that access because we know how much music education cultivates in young people. One thing that is so powerful about music is that it can have an impact for all children, including and especially our kiddos who are learning English, who have neurodivergent learning profiles, or who may be struggling to engage in school for a variety of reasons. Next slide. And really, there's so much research out there that shows that music making supports academic skills like math processing, sequencing, ELA proficiency, foundational reading skills, second language learning, and many, many more. Next slide. These programs also develop essential social emotional skills. They build students' creativity, self-esteem, their sense of belonging at school, also how to work together, respect and understanding of others. And it affects attendance. Many students come to school because they know they have band or orchestra that day. Next slide. Finally, this work was born out of our belief that instrumental programs achieve their true value through regular and frequent opportunities for students to make music together in ensembles. There's certainly value in students practicing and learning instruments on their own, but the real magic happens when they're making music together. Next slide. So in this data project, we measured 3 things. We measured participation rates, so how many are participating, rehearsal frequency, how much are they getting together and performing and rehearsing together, and finally proficiency levels, how good are they becoming. So next slide, and we'll start with participation. Just a note that this data was collected from the 23-24 school year, but my understanding is that the general picture has not demonstrably changed. So this is still indicative of our current situation. Next slide. So let's look at the numbers. In Buffalo Public Schools, 11% of K-12 students participate in an instrumental program. Meanwhile, a significant 7% are on active waiting lists. We suspect the waiting list number actually underrepresents the true interest because we lack a formal district-wide mechanism to track interested students, but many of our teachers keep their own lists, and that's where this data comes from. Next slide. Now we wanted to compare our Buffalo data to other districts in our region. So we selected 3, West Seneca, Kenmore, Tonawanda, and Williamsville. These districts were selected because they have strong music programs and they offer some measure of socioeconomic and racial diversity for comparison. And these districts were generous enough to share their data with us, and they can serve as thought partners on how they develop their best practices. Of course, at this point, I want to recognize that every district has its own challenges and unique set of assets, but in this peer group, instrumental participation is treated as a standard expectation. And because of that, participation rates often reach upwards of 20 to 30% of the total student body. And that's, again, to be compared with our 11%. And please also note there are no waiting lists in these districts. Next slide. Drilling down a bit, we can see a disparity in program depth in Buffalo. Only 6 out of our 53 schools in the district have the capacity to support both a string and a band program. In the majority of our Buffalo schools, a student's musical path is dictated by what's available in their building, either band or strings, rather than their own interest or talent. You can also see the discrepancy of programs between schools here, depending on each school level of support. And you can also see in the gray color, the roughly 1,500 children who are on a waiting list. Next slide. As you can see here, our comparison districts show consistent and scaffolded access that allows students to grow and improve, especially and even when they change schools from elementary to middle to high school. When a parent in these districts asks who's able to participate in band or orchestra, the answer is anyone who wants to. Next slide. In Buffalo, the answer to that question has too often been only those who are at the right schools. And this creates a system of haves and have-nots within our own district. In 23-24, there were 6 high schools that offered a program. Today, there's only 4 high schools in the entire district that offer instrumental music. 3 of those 4 are criterion schools, meaning a student must test in to access a music program. The result of this is that for the vast majority of our Buffalo high schoolers, the musical journey they started in elementary school is forced to end prematurely because their high school simply doesn't offer a program. Next slide. Perhaps most concerning is the recent trend at the secondary level Between 23-24 and our current school year, the percentage of high schools offering instrumental music dropped from 30% down to just 20%. Next slide. Students in our comparison districts have instrumental programs available in 100% of their high schools, which results in a difference of participation of anywhere from 10 to 20 percentage points. In districts like Williamsville, 1 in 4 students participates in high school music, while Buffalo's overall secondary participation has hovered around 7%. Next slide. Sorry, next slide. Thank you. In summary, we want to move from asking how many students in Buffalo are lucky enough to participate towards how many are guaranteed the right to participate. We can see this gap between what a student in Buffalo receives versus a school just a few miles away in our surrounding suburbs. Next slide. Next, we examined the impact of time spent, the frequency and the consistency of ensemble time that's happening in our schools. Next slide. While 100% of our comparison districts embed ensemble rehearsals into a dedicated class period, 90% of Buffalo schools rely on pullouts for rehearsals, or they will schedule outside of the standard school day. And this creates 2 significant barriers for our students. There's academic disruption. When students are pulled out of core classes, no one's happy about disrupting their school day. And this is a conflict that most of their regional peers don't have to face. And then also transportation challenges. Because many of our students rely on bus transportation, they're often unable to participate in rehearsals that are scheduled outside of the school day. Next slide. When we look at the cumulative impact of these scheduling barriers over a school year, then we can really see a stark disparity. While nearly all students in our comparison districts meet for anywhere between 20 to 90 or more rehearsals annually, nearly half of our Buffalo schools have between 0 and 4 rehearsals per year. Almost a third of our instrumental students in Buffalo never play together in an ensemble, missing out on this core social and collaborative benefit of music education. So we're hoping that our Buffalo students will perform at the same level as their peers while giving them a fraction of the time to actually practice the craft together. Next slide. Actually, we're going to skip the next one. And next slide. Thank you. All right, so lastly, we looked at student proficiency. In this final section, we can see how our structured circumstances directly impact the proficiency of our students compared to those in the surrounding districts. Next slide. In Buffalo schools, a staggering 74%, almost 3/4 of our instrumental students are at the beginner level. Only 20% are intermediate and 6% are advanced. And as you can see in the data at the bottom, those advanced students are concentrated in just a few schools. Next slide. If you look at our comparison districts, they successfully advance students beyond the beginner level at a significantly higher rate. On average, only 36% of their students are at the beginning level compared to our 74. Next slide. This slide is a key indicator for success. It's an aggregate of the proficiency in our 3 comparison districts. You can see that they achieve proficiency through scaffolding of programs from 4th grade all the way through high school. When programs are consistent and scaffolded, students advance naturally to a higher musical proficiency. So you can see that the elementary students are majority beginners, which makes sense because they're just starting out their instruments. But as they move up in grade level, they also move up in proficiency as they work through their programs. For comparison, I posted the aggregate of our Buffalo high school students on the right to show the difference in our outcomes. Over half of our high school students are still beginners, while 90% of their peers have advanced beyond that. And I think when we look at this, we can see where our system breaks down. We're not supporting our students so that they can grow and improve at a natural rate. We're holding them back. I'm going to skip through the next few slides. So advance again and again until we get to recommendations. One more, right there. Thank you. So at this point, I want to stress that the BPO is committed to partnering with the district to help increase access to opportunities. I also want to note that these recommendations that you'll see, they come from an external perspective, or as external as a parent and a community partner is, but they are based on the data that we collected, as well as many conversations with building administrators, teachers, and staff. So we have 3 recommendations to improve access for our kiddos. The first is build opportunities. We want to implement an all-city ensemble model with support and assistance from community partners. This would allow students from schools across the district to come together in all-city ensembles throughout the school year. Some of our Buffalo teachers are already piloting some collaborations between several schools in this way. And we want to support a district-wide initiative to enable all of our kiddos to have these music making opportunities. And this is actually something that used to exist in the district many, many years ago. We want to bring it back. The next 2 recommendations are more internally focused and could be advanced at the administrative and board level and could make a huge impact in the stability and the growth of our instrumental programs. The first is embedding equal access. We recommend shifting instrumental music out of discretionary spending to a guaranteed school-based budget line, as well as including music-making classes in the high school arts requirement. So currently, our SBMTs are asked to make heartbreaking decisions from year to year about whether they can maintain an instrumental program. And I know this because I'm on my son's SBMT and have been from the beginning. And this is because the funding is in discretionary lines. There really is no way for a program to build from year to year and provide that scaffolding needed for success without the guarantee that it won't get cut. We also see that many of our students who graduate 8th grade, they have limited options to continue, as only one high school with an instrumental program is non-criteria based. If our high school arts requirement included music making, in addition to visual arts and music in our lives, which is a non-music making music program where kids read about other people making music, this is what's currently offered in most of our high schools. If we could add our high school arts requirement, a music making component, all students could then have the opportunity to continue no matter which school they are attending. And our last recommendation is ensuring ensemble time. We need to identify a scheduling structure that incorporates ensemble time into the school day for all of our Buffalo schools so that our students can easily participate without missing other work. And can this be a district-wide initiative not left for the building principals to try and navigate the complexities of this issue? This is where I think we can work with our thought partners in our local districts and also reach out to larger districts to identify models that could work for Buffalo. But we have to start by recognizing the impact that this change would have on the quality of our music programs. You'll notice that our recommendations at this point do not include purchasing more instruments, despite the fact that there is a need for them. I believe that if we don't fix these internal structural issues first, then we won't be setting ourselves up for long-term success. I also feel that an instrument funding drive is a concrete and straightforward way that our community could participate in this work. businesses, foundations, individuals, etc., I think would answer the call to help us meet the need of getting instruments into the hands of interested students. Just think if we could add that 7% of waiting list students to our existing 11% participating, how much impact that would have overall. Next slide. Finally, we know there are challenges and barriers to improving access, but we owe it to our students to take this seriously and to work creatively together to ensure that they have the same opportunities as their counterparts in other parts of the region. Next slide. One back. Back one slide. It's missing. Okay, that's all right. I just want to add, we have a community of students, parents, teachers, administrators, and the broader public who support access to music and want more for our kids. And I know this board has even heard from many of those students and parents and teachers in the past. So I hope we can find ways to make that happen together. Thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that may come up.
Thank you, Robin. Chairwoman Rodriguez, please.
Hi, thank you, VP Zulich. Robin, it's so nice to see you here. I'm very excited to see you still advocating. For those of you who don't know, part of my professional experience involves working with Robin. Robin, I had a couple questions. So for me, one of the things that I wondered, because I know that you and others were very, very critical partners in getting things like drumming with the buckets into School 30 and having the BPO musicians push into after school. I know a lot of the presentation today was about school day. So I'm just wondering if maybe we can follow up to think how we can strengthen some of those opportunities in ELT, because I know BPO has been a partner there. And then just for everyone that's listening, I know that you're very aware that oftentimes over Saturday Academy, we brought in credentialed musicians to either provide early childhood music through other institutions. So I really appreciate the picture of music that you've presented, but I think it's important to acknowledge that at different times there are other levels of exposure, whether that be over ELT or Saturday Academy. And I would just ask for your continued support in developing recommendations around those areas as well. And then the other question that I had was in terms of the BPO music drive or the music drive for musical instruments. I know that in the past when we had the violin program at Herman Baldillo and at School 30, and we were looking about how to maximize those, is there like a list of like volunteers that you have that maybe we could call forward, or is there a way that we could help facilitate the musical instrument drive? Just because I think that's a great idea and I wouldn't want us to wait on that.
Thank you, Talia. So nice to see you as well. Yeah, so to address your first point about the Saturday academies and the after school programs, I think those are really important and they are fantastic access points, especially for whole families to come and attend and participate in music activities. I think that those should be an and. I think that we should be more focused on what's happening in the school day, and then what can happen at those Saturday academies and after school programs can be an extension of that, because the reality of those programs is they are drop-in for especially the Saturdays. And so any kind of consistency and scaffolded access is really hard to maintain. I say that as a partner who's tried it. So I think it definitely serves a really important purpose, but I hesitate to put more eggs into that basket. And then to your second point, an instrument drive, I stand ready to help with an instrument drive. I think that that would be really exciting. I think it would drive a lot of interest from our community and just put a spotlight and a focus on the need here, which could be beneficial all around.
Thank you, Robin, because I know that you were a partner of mine when we were trying to figure out how do we explain, how do we directly translate violin. I did want to address one of the points that you had on the final slide, which was about the community's understanding of the value of instrumental music. Um, I know you and I know I've worked with you professionally, but could you just share a little bit about your view there or why you included that point? Because I know that you as a neighbor know that the West Side is a very eclectic place and all of those cultures come with their own indigenous music. So
Yeah, I think that that was included. A lot of those points came from discussions I've had with community members and teachers specifically. So, not necessarily the kids, but the adults. And just a general concern that not necessarily the importance of music isn't out there, but that the importance of music programs in our schools is not widely understood, and that which is why we have the situation that we do. I think a lot of people have said, well, we have music, and we have enough music. And so part of this presentation was, let's look at the real numbers here. Look at what this actually looks like and recognize that this isn't enough.
thank you so much, Robin. And just for me speaking as a board member, I'm incredibly supportive of continuing to explain to folks that like in my experience, like music is math, and there's a lot that you all do and our musical and arts community that helps strengthen the core skills that we're really looking to develop in our students. So I really appreciate your presentation here today, and look forward to working with you as a partner as I have in the past.
Thank you.
Ms. Parkinson, great presentation. I just have a few questions. To start early in the elementary and middle schools, like, do you have like a beginner string program or anything like that?
In the district?
Yeah.
Yeah, so most of the programs start in fourth grade. There's a handful that start earlier, but I would say the majority start in fourth grade, and that's when you'll get the instruments in the kids' hands for the first time, and then they'll build from there. So ideally, that our kids would be able to try out many different instruments. This is, pie in the sky. Try out instruments and choose the instrument that speaks to them and that they're drawn to, and then they're able to start in a program within their school.
Now, moving on to high school, as far as advancing that curriculum, like, is there any type of pathway component? Because as they get older and they start exploring music, they more take on probably the behind the scenes stuff, like the media production, the arts administration, audio engineering. How do you put that component into it for our high schoolers? Maybe that's something they'll be a little bit more interested as well, and increase those numbers.
Yeah, I can't speak to what is currently being offered in our schools, but I do know that some of them have keyboard labs and computer labs that have some of those more technologically based music making programs, but I can't really speak knowledgeably to that.
And what's the staffing like as far as that goes? Like, what is the staffing?
For BPS?
Yes.
Well, I know that the BPS has over 80 music teachers. All students have general music up through, I believe it's 8th grade. And then there are instrumental teachers who provide the services that I was talking about today. So there's sort of two tracks. Every student gets general music of some sort throughout their elementary years at least. And then the instrumental piece has been sort of tacked on for some schools.
Also.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Dr. Evans Brown?
Yes, my hand is up. Thank you, Board Member Zulich. And thank you for your presentation. Um, Music has always been one of my key interests as well. And what I find is in historically Black colleges and in the South, they seem to have used music as an entity for increased attendance and participation. So I'm glad to hear that you are here talking about instrumental music and instruments. And if the research is showing that music increases literacy and math in young people, it seems to me what makes sense then to align the programming perhaps with, academic achievement um, curriculum. Like it's not an and, as you mentioned, but an infusion in the curriculum, particularly with our increase of students in special ed, for example, with decreased absenteeism. We always have to look at ways how we can draw our children into school and keep them interested. So thank you and kudos to you and keep plugging at it. I think I learned a lot today on this panel, listening to your presentation, and you keep tooting your horn because you have my support as well.
Thank you, Dr. Evans Brown.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
And at this time, I'm going to hand over to Chairperson Hawkins for education support, that portion of our work session today.
All righty. Thank you, Vice President Zillich, for passing the baton for the day. Today we do have Chief Reynolds presenting on behalf of adult education, along with her staff. And the floor is yours. Dr. Mubanga, do you have any remarks?
No, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
Chief
thank you.
Reynolds,
Appreciate
the
it.
floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chairman Hawkins. Good afternoon to all of our board members, to the viewing audience. I am actually just going to provide a brief welcome on behalf of the team. For our new board members, you are probably not aware that our adult education team provided a full presentation, I believe on October 8th. So today will be a general overview, and we are welcoming any questions that you have, but I'll also send to the full board the link to the October presentation if you want to take a deeper dive. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over the platform to our department leader, Director Amanda Blake, and our division leader, Dr. Alyssa Maffaletta.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, President Dr. Evans Brown and members of the Board of Education, and
Hello.
Superintendent Dr. Mubanga. My name is Amanda Blake, and I'm honored to serve as the Director of the Adult Education Division for our district. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you today to explain the critical role that adult education plays in our community. It strengthens both individual opportunities and the broader community. Our programs provide pathways for adult learners to earn high school equivalency diplomas, improve English language skills, develop workforce readiness, gain career certifications, and continued lifelong learning. Every day we serve students with diverse backgrounds, experiences, and goals. Many of our learners are balancing employment, parenting, financial responsibilities, and personal challenges while pursuing their education. Their determination is extraordinary, and our mission is to ensure they have access to high quality instruction, support services, and opportunities that lead to measurable success. Our work directly impacts the workforce development, economic mobility, community engagement, and family stability. And when adults improve their education and skills, the positive effects extend to employers, children, and the community as a whole. As a director, my focus is on maintaining strong instructional programming, supporting student achievement and attendance, strengthening partnerships with community organizations and employers, and ensuring accountability for the grant and state requirements, and to continue to expand opportunities that meet the evolving needs of our students and our workforce.
Just make sure you tell me to advance.
Just advance the slide. All right, so we're good on this slide right now. Yes, okay, you can advance, yes, right there, what we offer. So Buffalo Schools Adult Education offers 3 core areas of study in high school equivalency, GED, to get your GED prep, English as a second language, and career and technical education courses. We are at 15 different sites throughout the community in all 4 quadrants of the city. And we do that by design to help our students that are lacking transportation. And also by design, we are in community centers to give our students the additional supports that the community center offers to them. In addition to that, we are a Pearson Testing Center. We applied for that a couple of years ago so we could provide the GED. We have always provided the GED, but Pearson's has bought the GED, so we provide that testing, and we can do other testing for Pearson's in the future if we want to expand. In addition, we offer national certification courses and state and city licensure courses. We offer local employment training and community education courses. You can advance.
Next slide, please.
The areas of study that we have are, as I said, the high school equivalency to prepare for GED testing. The classes are free through the grants and funding from State Education Department, and eligible students have to be 17 and over. For our classes, we offer morning, afternoon, and evening classes, and also we offer virtual and distance education courses for those that qualify. You have to have a certain level of education to study at home. Career Collegiate Institute is our out-of-school youth program that is free as well. They're for learners 17 to 21, and they are out of the traditional school setting. And it's aimed to move learners either towards college or career pathway upon the completion of their high school equivalency. Other areas, the English as a second language, that is free for our students as well, 17 and up. We do have ESL classes at Career Collegiate Institute, and distance education is available for our ESL students, but again, that has to be even higher due to the language barrier, higher level. And then we offer new and current career advancement preparation within the for city, state, and national certifications. You can advance. You can advance. Career Collegiate Institute, as I mentioned, it's aimed to move learners towards college and career pathways. So we have different supports included in that, as I said, GED and ESL classes. We have a lot of supports and are continuously adding to our out-of-school youth program at Career Collegiate Institute. Currently, we have a Buffalo City social worker who does individual and group counseling. We have emotional support groups with the Bloom group. That is those are sessions for our young women, the Restorative Circles group, and then for the young men, we have Breaking Barriers, and those are also emotional support groups. We also are working in conjunction with Educational Opportunity Center to provide workforce support. The students at CCI during orientation receive information on the courses that EOC has, and try to relate that to what they will be pursuing in the classroom. And we're hoping to expand more to offer vocational training for the out-of-school youth. Other supports we have are through the Workforce Investment Board, the WIP, which is the AIM Hire program. The AIM Hire program offers career readiness, virtual reality for the different types of careers, resume writing. It's a perfect partnership with the Workforce Buffalo and the WIB with our students at the Career Collegiate Institute. And we're always adding more for that. You can advance. So our career and technical education courses in our continuing ed, we have several. We're always looking to grow. We try to look at the Department of Labor's jobs in demand. And so we're always flexible and adapting to the needs of the workforce in our community. Currently right now, some of our highlights for our career and tech education, we have the 3 levels of the STEAM engineering classes, which I know a lot of people realize is a huge need, and not only in our district, but in the city as a whole. So those classes are generally packed. And we have many engineers that were previously went into our program. So that is also a nice thing too. And they come in and they share their stories to people. We have HVAC for students, exploratory construction. That is a national certification for students. There, we offer civil service keyboarding, and we also do that in conjunction for the district, for the positions that we have here. And we have intro to auto with ECC. It is a matriculation process where the students will earn 2 credit hours for the course that we give them into the upcoming program that they enroll in. Other continuing ed classes we have are welding, plumbing, residential electric, horticulture, hands-on improvement, and computers. And the computers are at various sites. We've had them at our main center. We also have them at New Hope, and we did formerly have one at Workforce Buffalo, and we're looking to add another class there in the fall. You can advance. So some of our highlights in our division, we do, as I mentioned, the AIM Hire grant that we received. It is in partnership with Workforce Buffalo. The SUNY Erie, the coursework that allows them to get 2 credits towards the program completion at SUNY Erie. We have had Access VR funding for years, where we did vocational assessments for individuals with disabilities. This past year, we applied for a lot more to be able to provide services to our out-of-school youth as well. And there's a lot of additional services that we're going to be exploring for the upcoming year. And some of the additional classes we do have computer instruction for our out-of-school youth. The different social emotional supports that I had mentioned, and additional partnerships are being created to offer more opportunities for our students. You can advance. Our enrollment process for high school equivalency, it's very easy. It's by phone, walk-in, or online. We have day and night orientation. At this time of the year, we ended night orientation because it's the end of the school year as far as enrollment. And ESL is the same. It is open enrollment for those 2 areas, and we end enrollment because it's difficult to get the student to get a gain in the short period of time before the school ends for us June 30th. We have the career and tech. You can do it by phone, walk-in, or online for the different courses. Our website has a great list and great descriptions of the courses we offer. And that's semester based. So we start in September and again in January. Our orientation process, State Education Department has asked if we could increase and make it more robust. We took the challenge head on and added very relevant programming for our students in orientation to reassure them that we are there to support them in all the different needs that perhaps may be an obstacle for them to complete their education. We've included some updated technology where our students can come in and sign in on an iPad to make it more streamlined and efficient, and also getting students used to the digital literacy skills that all of us will need. In that orientation process, we also have them enroll in GED.com that will prepare them. There are different resources on that site to prepare them to take the GED exam when they are ready. And we also offer in our orientation virtual career center, which is a way to enroll our students into the different courses. This is a nice way for them to look at what they might be interested in. And when they meet with their case manager, who every class has a case manager assigned, they discuss the different employment outcomes and goals that they have. Next slide. So here are a few data points that we have at this point of the year. Our CCI, Career Collegiate Institute program, has already obtained 44 diplomas that the students have obtained that. We, as of today, yes, we still have more. I just got an email. Yes, the active students that we have currently right now are 234. And the total enrollment for our HSC preparation classes and ESL classes over the age of 21 stands at around 2,112 students for this year. And we have an incarcerated grant for the holding center, where we work with incarcerated individuals and youth in that program as well. We are contracted to serve minimally 29 students in that program, which can be very challenging with the transient nature of the holding center. We have a very robust program there too, that the students do enjoy coming down and advancing in their goals. And they have met all of their benchmarks, so that program will end. But then I got an email because a couple people in there are ready to take their GED. So it's an incredible program that we have, and we're very fortunate to have that opportunity to provide those services. Next slide, please. So some of our key challenges in the future, there are cuts to our funding that will, suggested cuts to our funding that will directly impact. The largest funding stream we have is, we call it EPI. It stands for Employment Preparation Education. And that is for the students who are 21 and over for ESL and high school equivalency. That EPI funding, it will be maintained, but it has never raised. The amount, the pot of the money for employment preparation has not grown. So we will still maintain the amount that we will get year after year. The key thing that's coming up is we owe a Title II, the workforce training that is suggested. That is something that will be coming. We currently have 5 grants under that, and that will be ending June 30th of next year, 2027, and we'll be reapplying for that as well. So we are currently trying to advocate for the needs of our adult students in our community for that. In addition, we are always reassessing the locations where we're at to better support the needs of the community. And just for example, right now, I know a lot of the West Side has grown, and a lot of students are moving over to the East Side. So I'm branching out to add more classes over on the East Side to meet the needs of those students. You can advance.
Board Member Zulich, I saw you looking at our handout, so we apologize for that. So we'll make sure you have the full handout.
Oh, I can look on board
'Cause I
docs.
looked at-
I was
it's
just
okay.
like, there's half now.
It's okay.
I had a question. May I go? Thank you. So I was excited this Monday on Board Talk, the radio show. We had Workforce Buffalo on. Okay, so we learned about our partnership and collaboration with them and the Aim Higher program. And that they also, this is an adult ed, but with our Lafayette students this summer, they're going to have some carpentry students with local 210 and connecting them. But I love to hear about this, educating incarcerated individuals. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about Access VR. What does that stand for exactly? Or do you know the acronym?
Adult Career and Continuing Educational Services.
Okay, and what does that
So that is under the State Education Department, that is the umbrella we're under for adult education, and there's additional Access VR vocational rehabilitation services And that is where we receive our funding.
Okay, thank you. I had the chance to go to the adult education brunch at the end of the year. And it's just, I remember last year and this year, I'm like, what? We do ESL? Like what? We do
Yeah.
this. It's just really exciting. All the things you offer.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
to be very flexible.
So Access also provides support services to veterans and people with disabilities. So there's an assessment tool that goes into that as well too. Some of our kiddos in K-12 do receive those types of supports like at OTC. So we do provide that through adult ed. While they're not traditional special ed services, they are supports and other mechanisms to ensure their success through our program.
Now, I know that majority of these programs are free, but the CTE and the CE isn't. So are there any services for like low income adults too?
So we receive a Perkins grant, which typically funds a lot of our students. So when they call and ask about the cost of a class, you know, we explain to them that during intake that we will take their information, and a lot of times the class is supported through those grants. So we were able to affect the cost in order to supplement the cost of the instructor in order to provide those classes. And there's also individual tuition assistance through Workforce Buffalo. If you're interested in a program that we may have, we have on the ETPL list, and that I do not remember what that stands for, eligible trainer provider list. So those are jobs that are in demand in our area. And if we have programs that align with that, if a student goes into Workforce Buffalo and is interested in that, they can demonstrate that they're interested in that and will be given a tuition stipend to us for that. Yes.
But outside of that too, employers in Western New York, Rich Products, others that will send people and they will pay for their tuition to come to our programs. There's other types of mechanisms by which people come to us, whether it's through big corporations like that or private. I also want to know, this is my plug for adult ed. We charge the lowest tuition compared to our competitors in the city and outside of the city. So when Amanda was talking about stationary engineer or stationary 1, 2, and the chief engineer, our classes are full. And many of our individuals that go through that program are employed in the city of Buffalo or Buffalo Public Schools. And as you said, many of our former engineers and many of our buildings came through our program. So we'd love to see that. But going back to your question, we do have employers that pay for people to come to us because we do have certified quality programming at a cheaper rate compared to our competitors. Not that we're a business, but when we look at it through the lens of tuition.
Okay, I do see we do have a few board members' hands up. Board member Wright, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Good. I want to thank you for this presentation that you shared. I see that you said that you have over like 2,100 students, right?
Yes.
Okay, you had over 2,100 students in the division. Can you please explain the retention and completion rate? What did retention and completion rates look like over the last 3 to 5 years, especially for GED completion, ESL completion, and workforce certification programs? I'm sorry.
Do you get that data right on your table or?
It's in our previous presentation from October.
Okay.
Do you want to see?
If you have it.
Could you just remind us? I'm so sorry. I just wanted to reiterate how important I think it would be if we could talk about that now here.
I can give you data, accurate data, later. What I can tell you right now is, again, like I say, we have to be very flexible with the needs of the community and the economy, and we go with ebbs and flows. So as far as workforce and CTE and HSC, the high school equivalency, only a couple of years ago, employers were needing people so much that you did not need a high school diploma anymore. So then we had to make sure that we advocated for our services in order for them to improve themselves and go on. But if you have to put food on the table, Sometimes you will do that. That is why we also have night and distance ed courses and distance education classes for students. As far as completion rates, when we say that we serve over 2,000 students at this time, a lot do come in at a very low reading level. So completion for some students can be done in a month. A lot of times students will come in and say, without meeting anyone, saying, I'm ready to take my GED. And, we talk to them about it just to make sure that they're ready and they feel that they want to take a little refresher after they're done with us. And then ESL, English as a second language. I've been with the adult ed division for 20 years now, and the ESL courses have grown quite a bit. It is, and I'm glad to remember to say this, it's 2/3 of our division at this point. That also goes with the ebbs and flows of the economy and different administrations. We did create a bridge class, though, probably about 7 years ago, to connect the students learning English to learn the literacy better, to then be prepared for GED prep, and that has been very successful.
Thank you. I have another question. Excuse me. What metrics are being used to determine whether the adult education division is successful? Beyond enrollment numbers, how are we measuring actual student outcomes, such as GED, employment placement, certifications earned, and transition into college? I apologize.
I think it's either him or her, but I think it's him.
Hello?
Hello?
Roof, I gotta mute you, Roof.
Is that the completion of your question, board member Wright? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
I just
So-
want to know how we are measuring the success of this division, and
Absolutely.
because
And
Yeah,
before you answer, I just want to make something clear that 4 of these board members were not at that presentation in October. They're new board members. This is their first year, so they were not in that particular session. So I just want to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So board member Wright, so adult education in the state of New York, we are governed by what's called AEPP, and we have our own set of metrics that we have to align to, and their benchmarks, their gains, their post-test, pre-test, and they are in all of our respective disciplines. And the state sets that for us. And the state sets that, and it's then tied to our to what's called EPI, which Amanda referenced earlier, which is one of our major funding sources. So our data and our finances directly align together. And when we look at success, everybody looks at success, and I'm happy that you said enrollment, because enrollment and GED numbers do not equate success in adult ed. Success is when people move from one level to another. When an ESL student that comes in and really is a first American to this country and really does not know any English, then accelerates through our program and bridges and then successfully achieves their GED, that is what we look at success. It's the story, it's the journey. Obviously the GED is the trophy, but we want to see them and that retention and keeping them there. And our teachers and our case managers and our staff are pivotal to retention. We really are like a family at all of our sites, and the staff do a phenomenal job, and the administration do a phenomenal job of that. But to get to your point, or to get to your question, so we use a system called Assist, which collects all of our data, which is monitored, what are we, monthly, every other month? And we actually have and we meet with the state either monthly or bi-monthly, and we go over our data, we go over our benchmarks. We have very, very direct communication with the state to ensure that we are hitting what we need to. And we are constantly, and Director Blake, I think weekly now, especially at the end of the school year as we wrap up, is meeting with our data folks at Adult Ed, and her and I have weekly meetings as well to be on top of it, to make sure we have to any pivots that we need to do, because again, to her point, we have to be flexible. In some cases, we have a very transient population, and given the culture and climate right now in our city and with the administration, we have seen a dramatic decrease in our ESL families. So we want them to have a safe place, and we've really opened up more virtual classes and things like that to accommodate the needs of our students and our families here in the city of Buffalo. Amanda, do you want to add anything to that?
I just would add that the last few years we have met or exceeded every target and benchmark that we were asked to do, as well as enrollment. So with enrollment, we fill out an application for the EPI and look back on past of what we projections of what we have had and request that amount of funding. And we are very close this year to reaching that amount of hours that we were granted, contact hours.
Board Member Rodriguez.
Okay. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Good. How are you, Talia?
Good. I'm
Nice
so
to
excited to
see
see
you.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, for the presentation. So before I go into my questions, which I categorized into two areas, I just want to point out, and I know this is something that comes up in conversation a lot, that every single ESL student is not foreign born. So some of our ESL students are citizens and they're born as such. And I know a lot of times we use those words interchangeably, but I just wanted to bring attention to that before we dive in. So I am very acutely familiar with adult ed. I used to sit outside my aunt's adult ed class on Virginia. And I also helped, as Amanda knows, and as Dr. Reynolds knows extensively, as we designed the community school strategy, as well as administered a legal clinic inside adult ed. So I am so for this. Some of the questions that I have are some of the things that I thought of when we were talking about data. So we have the data that the state asks us to collect, and then we have the data that we elect to collect as a district. So I think some of the things that I'm thinking about going forward are like when we administer the YRBS to our students in K through 12, are we administering similar health-based surveys to our adult ed folks? And is that something maybe we could work on or think about, even if it's abbreviated, to kind of strengthen the case for having the partners that you have all developed? I have two other data questions, and one is, do we track how many, and I think Dr. Reynolds, you've talked about this in past presentations, but do we track what children our adult ed students have and what schools they go to? And if maybe that's something we can think about to strengthen our communication systems within the district as a whole, because I know that you all are trusted partners for a lot of our adult ed folks. And then the other thing I wonder too, Amanda or Dr. Reynolds or whomever, I don't know if this is the appropriate setting, but for me, who's chair of finance and operations, could you just explain or maybe touch on the difference with the reimbursement rate or kind of like how that works with adult ed, so that people kind of get a sense of when we're educating adults, what the financial piece might be as opposed to when we're educating our students and our scholars in pre-K to 12? And that's the first phase. Sorry.
So I'll take the YRBS. So we do not administer the YRBS to adult ed. However, upon intake and orientation, we do assess for a variety of needs for our students. We also have a very special intake assessment for our CCI. Those are our 17 to 21-year-olds. And that
I just have a question. Who designs those tools, and are they peer reviewed or have they been shared with community?
So the CCI tool was done with a committee that has been going on 2 years. I think we've been administering that because the team and the students needed more, and they were asking for more resources and more services, and that's why you see such a more robust, especially SEL components. And then we also, tap into our in-house district resources for that too. But for our over 21 learners, when they come in through intake and orientation, there's a very robust intake system. We also have lit zones, and literacy zones are throughout the city, and we provide resources. You mentioned legal clinics. We talk about affordable housing, how to fill out an application for housing. There's all these different needs that we assess and do outside of traditional GED instruction. So we provide that in that big scale. And I'm just going to segue to this while it's fresh in my brain, because Amanda and I were just talking about it. We are wrapping up the end of the school year, so we'll have really robust data for you. But last year alone, we served about 1,700 BPS parents. Now, here's the thing, they self-report that during intake. So if they self-report that, it's part of our intake, like we ask, because we also want to bridge that connection back to our family and community engagement department, our community schools, and some of our other wonderful resources, because there are many overlapping needs. And these three departments have worked together closely for many, many years. So it's just imperative that there is more overlap in communication, and the directors do a phenomenal job of that. And I forgot your last question, which I think Amanda
Well,
was going to take.
that I think I had the last question was just about the reimbursement rate, but if I could just respond to your response, I think the data collection is imperative, and I'm so grateful that you all do that. I know how personal the enrollment process can be. For me, as an advocate for the district, it's been incredible to share out the public YRBS reports that are generated from those surveys. So, maybe additional conversations in the future about how we might share that with community and how that information might be able to better assist them in serving our neighbors, because a lot of times you all have data that others are waiting to get in 1 year windows, right? And I think it's exceptional that you have such a high response rate. The thing I did want to ask, and I can spend a little bit more time separately if it's okay with Dr. Reynolds and Dr. Mubanga, about some of the things that I'm interested in, like whether our students have general practitioners or whether they're insured or not. Like those are all things that impact their social determinants of health and the overall health of the home. But my last question was just about the reimbursement rate, like, because I think that there's such important work in adult ed, but maybe not an understanding on the public side about kind of what that reimbursement scheme is and what classes are the classes that the state is acutely interested in for whatever reasons.
So you're speaking of like our employment preparation and then reimbursement that we receive for those students?
Yeah, or kind of just framing, like the way I understand
Yeah.
it is that like GED is a class that we are reimbursed for, if that's the appropriate term, but just that like maybe we wouldn't be for like knitting. Do you know what I mean? So, because I know there's a different scale of the things that you all offer.
Yeah, so the EPI grant is the one that would be most similar to reimbursement. We receive $16.85 hour for each contact hour with a student, and it must be verified by sign in. We requested 230,000 contact hours this year, and we are at about 82% of that. So we still have time for the rest of the year, and some attendance still needs to go in. So I know that we will meet that benchmark. And
Fantastic.
often it's important also to know that if we do exceed it, we also can ask for a reallocation when some programs across the state do not meet those requirements. And we have
Okay,
gotten that in the past.
Perfect, Amanda. That's just what I was looking for. My last phase of questions is just about partnership. So if I wanted to teach at adult ed, or if I wanted to have an adult ed site, is there like a particular place on the website that I would like navigate to, or a particular contact? Because I think teaching for adult ed is a great opportunity for those who are able, but just kind of wondering how I can best share that information with community so I can be an advocate for the program.
So there is information just in general for the district on the different postings that we have at adult education right now. As far as community centers, if I had a general inquiry, I would be flooded. So of course, a lot of the community centers each want to have their own educational program, and we'd be happy to have them. However, I do not start a class until I meet with the director or whoever's in charge of the community center to ensure that they are also marketing, and that they are, if they have 20 students, I say fat math, 10 will show. So I know that we can run a program so it is not at a deficit to the district.
Okay. And I promise this is my last one. Thank you for that, Amanda. Because I think that one of the things that is important is just so people understand how sites come to be and what that process looks like. My last question was just because I had shared the link for distance enrollment right now, and it does reflect what you said, that the enrollment period is closed. Is there a way that we're collecting data about those who want to reach us, but we can't enroll them in distance learning right now? Or is there
Yes.
like another link I can send them?
No, it's still an interest into our classes, and then we would make sure to call them back and arrange a time for them to come in. So students right now the enrollment ended this week. So students will be able to call, and we will put them on our list.
Okay, for sure. I'll definitely tell people to call because I think that the Google form was closed, but I just wanted to make sure because I know that we're constantly wanting to collect that data. I am a huge advocate and very intimately aware with adult ed again because my family attended, and as a little person, I marched myself up to the Virginia site. So I think Dr. Reynolds knows this, but if there's anything that you need partnership on, I'm excited to talk about it and definitely have some other questions, Dr. Reynolds, going forward. But I really appreciate your work, and it's very meaningful for me and has directly impacted my family.
Thank you for saying that.
Board Member Wright?
Okay, I know we are trying to go home. I just have two last questions. I want to know how many students earn job placement, and also who is directly accountable for program outcomes and student success?
So job placement is through many partnerships. So we work with local unions, we work with local businesses, not-for-profits. We have businesses or institutions that will contact Amanda directly and it's like, hey, I see you have this class. We'd like to come in and talk to them. And they'll tell people, like, especially in our stationary engineer, I think they just came in and did one in HVAC too. Like some businesses are like, hey, we need people, we have job openings. Here's what we offer. And we invite them in. We also we work very, very closely with the Department of Labor and Buffalo and Erie County Workforce Development Board, which Board Member Zulich referenced from the podcast earlier this week. They're a big partner of us. So there's a lot of different avenues for people to gain employment. Also, some people are there because their employer sent them, so they're already meaningfully employed. So we try to use them as an outlet to say, hey, does your employer need anybody else? Because we got 10 more people in this class. So we work very, very closely locally, and Amanda's always out and about in our because we're in a lot of community centers too. So Amanda's always out and about, and our staff are too, and they're always bringing in resources, and we're posting, and we have job fairs and career fairs. And
some for this community connections as well. So most recently, we connected with the CEO. I can't think of her name off the top of my mind. Harvest Kitchen.
Yes.
And so not only did Adult Ed partner with this grassroots Black-owned business, but our students will not only take the classes, but afterwards they'll be employed. They'll receive the certificate to be employed for the cooking classes. It's a cooking class. They'll have an opportunity also, if they're interested, in establishing their own small business as well. So community connections is also another opportunity for us to do the job with our adult learners as well.
And something that
and I asked another question about student outcomes and who's responsible for that.
We all are.
The district.
Yeah, and I do review the data weekly from the beginning of the school year, so it's weekly for me every week of the year. Because we just have to be flexible and adapt so quickly with so there are a lot of ESL students that were intimidated to come to school in this past year, so we have seen a decline in our enrollment and our attendance. We're flexible. So what did we do? We offered a virtual class. So that is a new thing that we started. That is live instruction that we have right now, in addition to our distance education courses. And the state is really seeing the importance of offering these for our adult learners, classes like this. And they're expanding more opportunities and allowing us to do more classes. So this has been very successful so far. We've only had it for couple months right now. And the employment we also have to report on. We met our benchmark last year as well. We have to survey all of our students 6 months and 1 year after they leave our program. And surveying, of course, is very difficult sometimes if you're able to get people, but we work very hard to get a high survey rate for that. So we have that information as well.
So you will be directly accountable for those outcomes.
Absolutely.
What happens when the performance goals aren't met?
So if the performance goals aren't met, you will be put on a corrective action plan. It's important to note that Buffalo, being one of the big five, is on what's called an IATAP, an individual technical assistance plan, because we're so large. All the big five have that.
We are the second largest program in the state of New York. as far as the number of people we serve in sites. So we are a very, very large program that does a phenomenal job of retention and meeting benchmarks. And remember, post-test gains, all of that, and we are operating so many different sites. So when people always ask what happens when we don't meet them, we meet so regularly with the state that we are so far on top of it that we know what we have to do to pivot, to call students. I think Board Member Wright asked earlier about retention. We have case managers that call students. So if Dr. Reynolds didn't show up for class for 2 days, we're on the phone. Hey, what's going on? Do you need support? Why aren't you here? So we have a lot of interpersonal connection, which really helps with our retention as well.
But they drill down as well, though. Just like our K-12 programs, the instructors drill down on the student data. So there's been multiple times when they're gleaning, they're analyzing the data. There have been some instances where we're realizing that we've had to provide additional PD to our instructors. Differentiation is one that we're repeatedly having to provide for our instructors when we see that those gains are not being met by our adult learners.
And that is reviewed top to bottom. I, as we said, we work with the state education department about quarterly. We review stuff. We have coordinators who go out to the different programs and courses and go over what's called a program evaluation report that lists all the different levels and their gain rate and completion. And it goes all the way down to the teacher. Before I came here, I just had emailed our night supervisor to look at some of our night programs for the students that are not making a gain. Night is more difficult because it's only 6 hours a week. Some of them are 9. It is difficult to make a gain in only 6 hours a week.
Excellent. President Brown.
Thank you both for all three of you for the presentation. So I just want to say, I don't have any questions, but board members, if you've never been to a graduation of adult education, you must go. I went last year and I was so impressed with the number of young people who graduated. And I was especially impressed with over 50% of men of color who graduated from that program. So you must go. Kudos to your staff. You do a phenomenal job, and it seemed like the young people really get a lot out of their participation in your program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and our graduation for the out of school youth for CCI will be on June 11th, and all board members are invited. At City Honors, 6 o'clock.
Board Member Rodriguez.
Okay, I promise this is my last question because I know that we want to wrap. Just for everyone that's listening, Amanda, can you talk a little bit about if adult ed interacts with food service at all? Do we feed our neighbors? Do we feed some of them? Do we not? So that's because I think that part of it is we do so much on this side, but there's not always kind of that same understanding of how much that might cost or if it does at all.
So only the out of school youth are receiving lunches and breakfasts at this time. We do not have funding, nor are we allowed to use money for food that we are given through our various grants. But what we do offer is the community partnerships and the, I just spoke with Sister Janice over at Response to Love Center and the food kitchen that they have. And I know that, remember when we went to New Hope Harvest House, they have an incredible program, I believe, through M&T Bank that does food for them. And so people can come in and get bags of fresh produce. And so all of our community centers, Gloria J. Parks, we just added something this past year out of fear of the reduction in SNAP benefits and food for our students. So we, pulled things together at the Gloria J. Parks, and we do that wherever we see it that is a need. And it brings me to something I want to make sure to point out is that, as Dr. Monfiletto said, we have case managers that work with all of our classes. That is very unique in the state of New York. You're not required to, except for our literacy zone grants. We feel that our students in our community need that extra support. So you can go down and say to your case manager and say, I don't know how to get here on time. I can't get the bus. I don't have tokens. I need women's shelter. I have a student over at Response to Love. They were helping them with their IRS, with their taxes, because they were not coming to school. When we find out why are you not coming to school, he's trying to figure out how to do this. And so she said, come to school and we'll figure out how to help you with this, because it's just all these things are weighing on their mind.
And also MAP, you'll see MAP in the front yard on Virginia Street. We have a schedule with them. So we have the MAP truck that comes in with fresh produce. Amanda's, you guys have been doing that since long before I was with you. So that is part of it as well too. So we try to work with the community resources. Board Member Rodriguez, to bring in as much as we can, because we are not permitted to provide food for our adults per se. But we try to bring things in those types of capacities.
Thank you so much. So, because I just wanted to point that out, like when we're looking at food service or when we're looking at those commissary costs, they're not covering or touching most of our adult ed students. And it sounds like you all are doing a lot to fill that gap, and food is one of my big things. So thank you so much. I'm really excited. I love adult ed, and you know, as time goes on, I'm sure you'll see me more, but I really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few more, just quickly.
But are we doing CLRI still too?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
How is your staff performance evaluated?
Through the APPR process, same as K-12.
Okay, and do you have enough, instructors, counselors, support staff? Do you have enough? How can we best support, as a board?
Well, how can you best support it? Most certainly, as I mentioned, the WIOA funding that's coming down. Advocacy is very huge right now. As education, we're not allowed to have lobbyists per se, but we have advocates. And I'm also currently I have been on the NIACE board, New York Association of Adult and Continuing Education, and those are all adult ed programs for the state of New York. And we have grown and quite a bit and ambitious in working with the state. So we are working on current stuff like that. So the WIOA, it's going to be more aligned with the Department of Labor. However, it's adult basic education. You cannot get a job if you are functionally illiterate, which we have a high percentage in our city, of course. So that is a huge thing. And then just obviously recognize us and spread the word. I have to admit, when I was teaching at East High School, somebody said, you should apply to adult ed. I said, what's adult ed? And I hear it all the time. And that is my charge, is to get out there. And I appreciate the opportunity right now to inform you.
Well, ladies, that was a great presentation. Very great, honorable answers. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job.
Yes, we have one more. I'm sorry to keep everybody here on hump day like this, but yes. Definitely have games today, right? It's no games. San Antonio.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right, thank you, Rich. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, last but not least, for our main eventer, we have Chief Bonicelli presenting CLRI transition. Chief Bonicelli, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am going to share my screen, so just let me know if you can see everything.
She's out of the district. She's in the conference.
See, I'll see sharing the screen. If anything is invisible, I'll let you know. Just go ahead when you're ready.
Who's that?
The
Is it AI?
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Terrific. So I know I am the last show tonight, so I am going to be short and sweet, but I am definitely open for questions at the end. So I have the privilege tonight of talking about the transition from CLRI over to the academic affairs team. So for 26-27 school year, just in terms of staff, they will have one director, 2 supervisors, 2 teachers on assignment, 4 cultural resource specialists to serve the NARP team, and a part-time clerical staff member. So CLRI staff is going to be joining the Office of Academic Affairs, which is sort of the umbrella term for my teams. And they will be able to actually benefit, I hope, because they're going to be able to collaborate more with the rest of the teams and really get some programmatic support. They're going to be directly under Kelly Baudo, so they'll be right in the work with all of the CAI staff. And I think it's going to provide some terrific opportunities. So we're really excited. The programming will be continuing. So again, Our Story, MBK and MSK, the Fellows, the Summer Bridge Academy, the Lorna C. Hill Speaking Contest, all of the disproportionality sessions and the Urban Forum will continue, even though they've moved to a different division. So I wanted to talk briefly about the sort of the framework from state ed. And I don't know if everyone is aware, but the Portrait of a Graduate is sort of framed around culturally responsive, sustaining education. And that platform actually comes from the work of the CLRI team. So a few years ago, they identified several high leverage practices. So that includes creating a welcoming environment, providing rigorous instruction and holding high expectations for everyone, a culturally inclusive curriculum, and staff training on culturally relevant pedagogy and systemic practices. So those 4 core practices actually became the framework that state ed uses as part of their culturally responsive sustaining education framework, and now part of the Portrait of a Graduate. So all the work that we do in the Office of Academic Affairs actually meshes very, very well with these high leverage practices from CLRI. As an example, creating a welcoming environment, the look-fors that CLRI has established are teachers knowing and correctly pronouncing student names, multilingual labels in classrooms, taking steps to honor different cultures, and displaying images, symbols, or artifacts reflective of the diversity within the classroom. And these are all things that we also do in the Office of Academic Affairs, which encompasses not only curriculum assessment and instruction, but also the Division of Multilingual, staff development, grants, federal state grants, as well as special education. So these things are at the heart of the work that we do in academic affairs. And so it's going to be such a wonderful fit to have CLRI join us. You can just see a few pictures to the left. One of the things that CLRI has created is the Celebration of Diversity series, and we've taken those lessons and embedded them in our curriculum. Another of the tenets is rigorous instruction and high expectations, which also fits very well with the work of the team in academic affairs. So the CLRI team has identified several look-fors, which includes providing opportunities for students to engage in developmentally appropriate lessons, enrichment and intervention opportunities, valuing and encouraging the use of students' home languages, which the multilingual team works very, very well with, translanguaging strategies for teachers, and then teachers and staff encouraging high academic achievement. All of these ideas from CLRI really tightly align to the new strategic plan and the many things that are going on across the district. To the right, you can see a couple pictures from our Honor Society inductions. Dr. Evans Brown was kind enough to speak at the Olmsted Junior Honor Society induction. You can see that picture towards the bottom. And above is an example of the Polar Plunge fundraising activity that they do as part of Honor Society at IPREP. So all of the things that are happening are going to be such a tight fit together with the work of CLRI. We're very, very encouraged. So we also have a culturally inclusive curriculum. We offer a number of specialized course offerings. So I won't read them all to you, but these are all things that are currently offered at the high school level. We have a number of initiatives that CLRI and CAI have collaborated on. For example, the 1619 project, lessons were created and embedded in English and social studies classrooms. We worked very closely with Director Bell to create a K2 Rising Voices Read Aloud series. So she purchased the read alouds that were distributed to schools, and the reading department took those and created lessons and activities around those culturally diverse stories. And then the CLRI team actually created additional lessons. So that marriage of the reading department and the CLRI team produced some really powerful lessons in our classrooms. CLRI is also part of the textbook adoption committee when CAI adopts a new textbook. And I think I mentioned we're adopting a new math program that'll be coming to you for approval next week. And the CLRI representative sat on that committee. We are also really excited that we're going to be reworking our K-6 social studies curriculum to integrate writing, project-based learning, and culturally responsive instruction. Not that those things aren't part of it now, but we want to have a really tight fit and bring all stakeholders together to improve that curriculum. And then CLRI has a number of curriculum initiatives that have been incorporated into different aspects of the district curriculum, which includes the diversity celebration series and the emancipation lessons. There's also a lot of training on culturally relevant pedagogy. So several years ago, the CLRT training was created in partnership with CAI and CLRI. And that is a 2-day training that all of our teachers participate in. And then at our retreat, we'll be offering explicit and implicit bias. That will be Chief Amos. And then Director Bell and her team, Sharon Brown and her team will be doing the code of conduct through an equity lens. Again, the disproportionality sessions in urban form are going to continue next year. This May, actually tomorrow and Friday, there is training for paraprofessionals. Dr. Bell and her team will be working on an introduction to culturally responsive framework that I mentioned earlier. And Chief Amos will be offering diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And then there's always the Guardians of Equity, which there is one at every school. They serve as a liaison between CLRI and the school, and they ensure systematic implementation of the initiatives that are promoted by that department. They also turnkey professional development at the school level. They lead book studies, and they support the various initiatives of CLRI. So you can see that there's a lot of different hands involved in this work. CLRI is the mainstay. DEI is extremely important at delivering this professional development. And then various other members of CAI and different teams also support that work. Another part of the CLRI team is the Native American Resource Program. So there are several cultural resource specialists that support our students. They take a number of field trips, and they host many different events to support the community. To the right, you can actually see a picture of one of the murals at School 19, the Native American Magnet. Those were recently restored in anticipation of an upcoming conference that will be held in Buffalo. Likewise, there are scholar programs. There's a number of them that CLRI supports. First is the Our Story Project. These are high school students that meet after school and on Saturdays. The scholars learn about social justice and their own history. There's a lot of leadership development opportunities, public speaking opportunities, and a number of field trips that are culturally relevant. And the good news is that next year, Our Story will be expanding to any school at the high school level for implementation. So right now it's just at a few schools, and next year it'll go district-wide. Again, we're also maintaining the other scholar programs, the My Brother's Keeper and My Sister's Keeper initiatives, as well as the My Brother's Keeper Fellows. So this is an academic club that's embedded in our after-school program at various schools, grades 6 through 8. On Saturdays, they get together for field trips and cultural and community building activities. And then this summer, CLRI is hosting a summer bridge academy for the 7th and 8th graders. It'll be at East High School from late July to early August. And again, they'll take field trips and engage in a lot of community and cultural building activities. They'll have guest speakers and they'll have physical education activities. And the fellows, again, will continue next year. There are 4 male upperclassmen who are chosen to participate in the New York State branch of the MBK Fellows Initiative. And just to the right, you can see a picture from a recent field trip that the students took. It was actually a Saturday. It's the My Sister's Keeper students. They went to the Warrior Factory. And then finally, the Lorna C. Hill Speaking Contest will continue. So at Lorna C. Hill, students perform text excerpts, poems or prose, and monologues from Black and African American authors. They hold a preliminary contest at the school level. And the scholars who are successful will compete in the finals at the Ujima Theater Company each year. So I promised I would be brief. I am happy to take any questions.
That was a great presentation, Chief. Very short and brief, but effective. I like that.
I think you said 10 minutes. I hope I stuck to that.
That was about your time. You'll use Josh Allen with that. But
All right.
Board Member Rodriguez, the floor is yours.
I appreciate the brevity. So I'm probably going to work just from my easiest question to like the one that I'm having difficulty formatting. But are there any plans to utilize the fellows in the summer program? And then, Chief Botticelli, how do we gauge and integrate student feedback, even from the fellow level, about how to improve the services or the overall program?
So the 4 fellows are actually very actively engaged with New York State in that particular initiative, but I think it's a great idea. I'll have to talk to Director Bell and see how frequently they engage with the program members itself. But I think that's a terrific idea. And I know that they take a lot of feedback from the community and from the students, because one of their major missions is to encourage student voice. So they definitely listen to their students and take what they want into account.
Awesome, thank you. And then my next question is about field trips. I know I love the field trips, and I'm like a local history buff. So I just wondered, with any of the programs that you mentioned, are any of them taking, like, to your knowledge, like walking field trips or leveraging like local history? I'm thinking like maybe like the Michigan corridor or other places that are a little bit closer or within walking distance to the schools.
Okay, so because it's happening at all the schools in many cases, or many of the schools, I don't know how much proximity they have to that type of activity. But as a district, we send our middle school students to the corridor for a field trip.
Fantastic. And then my last question is specifically about the Puerto Rican history and culture. So I took a lot of APs, but they were not offering that one, or they were not offering anything similar. I just wonder, as we're shaping and rolling out that program with the constituency of your team, if there's gaps, are there opportunities for people from the community to fill in for like perspective, or to give feedback on like how the class is forming? So I guess what I'm meaning to ask is, with the team that's moving over or responsible for CLRI, do any of them leverage their lived experience, specifically in the area of Puerto Rican history and culture, to kind of help implement that class, or could they?
That class was actually written in conjunction with the with Kaz Rodriguez and his team. So there was a lot of input, I believe also from some professors. It was written a few years back. So there was a lot of input in the creation of that particular class. And I'm sure that whichever teacher's offering it would welcome any participation from the community.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. Do we have any people who are bilingual working in the CRLI department right now, who are Spanish speaking?
I do not know for a fact if anyone is bilingual.
For sure. Thank you. And then my last question is, because I've had like the privilege to have like a front row seat to how these programs have developed over time. I just wonder, Chief, Botticelli, is there a way that the district, is there like a place of oral history, or like similarly with Kaz's project about oral history, is anyone kind of documenting the growth of the program? So if I go to MBK now to the website, I know how it started, or I can understand the district's growth, because I think, as you said, it's a program that, as well as the rest of them, that we're very proud of. And then my last question is, with the involvement of our Indigenous nations with the Native American Resource Program, like if there is like alignment, or if we have direct participation with them, and like kind of what that partnership looks like. And those are all my questions. Board Member Hawkins.
I think the first question was documentation, and no, I do not believe that that has been documented, and it's a terrific idea. So I can meet with the team and see what we can put together. I know they have photo documentation and things like that, but it's probably not in one comprehensive place. So that would be something that they could work on. It's a good idea. Thank you. The second question, the NARP team. Yes. So that actually is connected to the Title VI grant, which requires that there's a parent committee. So the community is actually very involved in the work of that team, because even though we fund the team members, the grant funds the experiences. So the field trips and things like that they go on are funded through the grant, and the parents have a say in that grant. And so they meet regularly, pretty much monthly, with one of the supervisors kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Facilitating the conversation. But they also just recently held a public forum to get input on the grant. So that was about a week or two ago, and we just submitted the new proposal for grant approval.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chief Moncelli, was this department your scope of work in years past, CLRI?
When Dr. Morell started this work, she was actually the assistant superintendent for curriculum.
But was that were you in part of that? Was this part of your scope of work?
So Dr. Morell did report to me directly, but then she branched off into a different division.
How long was that? How long were you guys together before she branched off?
That's a good question. I'd have to go back and look at 1 or 2 years.
Years. Okay, you said 2 Tulsas. How many Tulsas was it last year? Or currently?
Currently, there are 3.
Currently, there are 3, but there will be 2.
Correct.
4 NARP specialists. How many are there now than opposed to the 4 that you have here?
There are 5 cultural resource specialists right now.
I'm saying specialized offerings. Is that optional, or is that going to be actually integrated into the curriculum?
So I think that's a 2-part question. Those are elective offerings that I listed, those AP courses and dual credit courses. But within all of our curricula, we are integrating culturally responsive, the framework from the state. It's actually a requirement. So we're very conscious of making sure that there's representation in our curriculum. Students can see themselves. And then we also work with multilingual to make sure that we're addressing the needs of our multilingual population.
Excellent. Now that basically these initiatives are within your scope of work again, what is the instructional plan to ensure that we begin to address the high rates of special education referrals, especially considering as a district, we have decided for disproportionate rates of children of color being either referred or identified with receiving special education services. So what's the plan to address this ongoing concern?
So I guess that's twofold. There's some students that are referred for academic reasons, and then there are other students that are referred for a multitude of other factors like behavior and things. So academically, we've had a huge initiative to work with the science of reading and make sure that kids are leaving the primary grades able to decode and comprehend, read fluently, learn vocabulary, and really gain in their literacy acquisition. And then we continue to intervene with them as needed and enrich as they go up through the grade levels. And then at the other end, we are also pushing a lot of very rigorous coursework because we know our kids can do it. We just sometimes need to put certain scaffolds in place. So for example, if you are a multilingual learner, you might need a sentence starter to begin the conversation, but you can still participate. So we're very conscious of making sure that we have access points for our kids into the curriculum and that we are really, really fine-tuning their literacy skills so that they can succeed. And then, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was the second part of your question? Other students are referred for behavior. So once a student is referred, the committee takes a very careful look at the data that's been collected, the supports that have been put in place, the student's attendance. They need to make sure that the student is being referred appropriately. If it is deemed that the student should receive services, then we are very conscious that they get the appropriate placement in terms of which continuum they're part of, and that the supports are in place for those kids. So we've actually, for example, we have an autism task force that has been meeting pretty regularly, and we are hoping to present to you guys soon. But we've done a lot of work with additional classroom supports, refining the placement process, creating that agency we've discussed, and just making sure that things are in place for teachers to receive professional development and be able to work with the students appropriately.
Okay, now what's the percentage of students of special education that are?
Wait, should we, I don't, is this a special ed work session or?
No, this is CLRI. These are questions that I'm answering.
Okay, I'm just trying to be mindful of everybody's time. This is
Okay,
first.
time. I mean, the questions got to be answered. So, the percentage of students education without a graduation is either with regents or local diplomas.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What's the percentage of students of special education that are graduating with either regents or local diplomas? Do you have that number?
I don't have that with me, but I can get it for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
What are some of the positive impacts you believe that these initiatives will have on teaching and learning, and how will this be assessed for us to know and understand the impact that it is having on its instructional practices and student outcomes?
Okay, well, two ways that it would be assessed would be through academic data and attendance data, and a decrease in, a decrease in suspensions. Because when students feel like they belong, when they feel like their teacher understands their culture and understands what hears their voice, we do believe that attendance will improve, suspensions will decrease, and academics will improve.
Obviously, with 50% of this district, academically being in disarray, how can we assure that this initiative here will be integrated properly and consistent?
Okay, so what has happened sometimes in the past is that there might be some really fantastic lessons, and then we work to retrofit them into curriculum. With CLRI, part of academic affairs, we're really excited because they can be in on the ground floor working with the team to make sure that that's not an add-on, that it's part of the curriculum, it's integrated. We've had some really productive conversations with Director Bell, and we're very excited, especially with the new K-6 social studies curriculum. It's a terrific opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. Well, time is up. Chief, thank you for your time. Great presentation.
Oh,
VP Everhart.
Excuse me, VP
I have a
Everhart.
question. I have a few questions.
Sure.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you for the presentation. So I know you've been over CLRI for about 2 weeks now, right?
About.
So all of these questions are kind of like, not really going to the right person. Okay. The first slide you have with the organization of CLRI, it seems that it's going from a division to a department with Kelly Bodo over it now.
Correct. We're actually reorganizing a lot of our team. In fact, you probably heard my office called the Office of Instruction in the past, but we're actually renaming it the Office of Academic Affairs. So there's a number of adjustments that we're making.
Okay, I'm wondering, because you have so much work to do with the CLRI and a portrait of the graduate coming in, and that cultural piece being the center of portrait of graduate, would it be more effective if Director Bell reported directly to you instead of reporting to, I'm just going to say it, having that filter of 2 white women over a cultural program might not get you to where you're trying to be as far as integrating it into the curriculum. And so I think that because it's going to be such a big part of your work personally, you and Daphne working on that together, it might be more effective.
So Director Bell knows she has direct access to me at any time. In fact, we've been talking a lot in the past couple of weeks. The reason that she was placed with CAI is because we want that team integrated into the work of the curriculum and the instructional division. So it's really, I thought, very impactful for her to have direct interactions with the director of social studies in that team, with the director of reading. So that was the thought process.
And so there will be no filter between you and Daphne as far as how curriculum is rolled out?
No.
So it's not
I'm
a
probably a
second
little bit
layer
of
of filtering.
Well, there definitely, because everybody would go through Dr. Baudo so that we have some standardization, but everyone on my team knows that they can call me. I've been talking to directors all day today. Even though there is a layer that helps support that work, no one is ever prevented from calling me, reaching out with questions. And I don't want to call myself a micromanager, but I review all the curriculum. So I
know,
don't
but
let it, it
here's
doesn't
where
get
I'm
out
going.
there if I haven't reviewed it and had some say.
So our monthly reporting, I would like to see CLRI on that along with the goals, since that is part of one of our goals, right? So
Sure.
I would like that to be reported out in a way that we can actually see how it's being infused into the curriculum.
Okay.
And if you're not having that direct interaction, like today, you can't really answer a whole lot of questions about CLRI. Like, from what I understand, it's not aligned with the curriculum right now.
No, they have created a number of series of lessons that we have embedded in the curriculum. But my
I
point
read
was
them
that
on the line. They're not embedded in the curriculum as much as they are just like folders that teachers can pull from one time a month.
there are things that teachers have access to, and in some cases, they're embedded directly in the curriculum. So there's a link right in the lesson to the CLRI piece. Like if you go to the reading curriculum, it's right there. It says at this time you teach this lesson, and then it's a hyperlink to that lesson. So it is directly embedded, but it was not written in tandem with the social studies department, for example. So this is an opportunity for us to have them at the table so that there's no space between.
Right. So it won't be an elective for teachers to elect to pick it. Like, how are we monitoring?
Correct.
What are the checks and balances? How do we know that it's being implemented? And then what's monitoring? How are we monitoring that it is being taught? And this is like daily, I'm thinking.
Yeah. So in our coaching tool, we actually look to see that things are being done the way they're laid out in the curriculum. And so once it is officially embedded in every aspect of the curriculum, we can go in and say, you're supposed to be teaching this lesson today, right? This is what I anticipate seeing. And principals obviously have direct access to our curriculum as well. I don't want to give you the impression that it's not there. Like right now, there are those lessons in our social studies curriculum, but we want to really refine it so that it's more impactful and it doesn't feel separate. We want it to be like part of the automatic piece in the instruction, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense.
Okay.
But it's not just social studies, right? It's also in
It's in our
science,
reading
right?
curriculum.
It's in reading.
Yeah.
It's in all the
Yeah.
curriculum. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do you have a assessment tool?
We're revising our
program?
coaching tool, right? So they have their own tool, which is very similar to the existing coaching tool, but we're revising the coaching tool to be better aligned to the strategic plan and the DSIP. So once that new version comes out, you'll be able to see like, what do you see in the curriculum? Are you seeing the things you're supposed to be seeing? And then principals can go in and rate whether they are seeing it or not seeing it. And once everything is completely embedded, when they pull up the curriculum map, they'll be able to tell exactly what should be happening during this time frame. It's really a great opportunity for us. We're very excited, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been around since 2019 and it hasn't been infused into the curriculum. And I know for a fact that that should have not happened.
It is definitely in the curriculum, but we didn't necessarily have a way to always monitor it the way we will now.
Okay.
And when they're, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, when they're sitting at the table with us, it's better.
Yeah. I don't understand. So they haven't been sitting at the table with you before, the CLRI department, CLRI?
That curriculum was created by that team, but not
Right.
necessarily in tandem with some of the other departments, which is why we're really happy that we'll be able to work together to make sure that everything is completely integrated. It's a great opportunity.
Okay. And what is the name of the coaching tool?
It's just called the coaching tool.
That's it.
Yeah,
So
it's on our
what's the name of
website,
this?
actually.
Like, what type of data are you going to be able to pull from this? What is it an assessment tool? You know how you give us charts, the progression of the literacy and the goals monthly? What type of data would you be giving us?
So the coaching tool is electronic. So we do actually capture data right now. So we just have, but we're reworking it. So we'd have to have something very specific in there to capture the type of data you're looking for.
Okay. And what about the 1619 project? That's still going to be part of it?
That is currently embedded in our English curriculum at the high school and our social studies curriculum at the high school.
Okay.
Those lessons, actually, that is one instance where they are very tightly woven in. The director of English worked with CLRI to create those lessons. So there's some really terrific examples from the project that are in the English curriculum.
Okay. So in 30 days, we're not going to hear that teachers are still picking up packets one time per month in order to get this curriculum into their
No,
classrooms. And
we
they
want
don't.
everything right in the actual pacing guide, right in the instructional guide.
Okay, so they won't be able to elect out of it.
No, it would be embedded in the work.
Okay, and what about professional development?
So once the social studies curriculum is written, we would train those teachers. So that's a K-6 enterprise. It might take a little while, but we'll be doing that. And then the guardians can also turnkey a lot of the work. And I just want to make sure, I'm not at all trying to minimize any of the lessons that are currently written. They're excellent. We just need to make sure that there's no opt-out, that they are like obviously enmeshed in the work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't be an opt-out of this. When it was first adopted, it was supposed to be part of the curriculum, right? And that's when it was under you, right?
No, those lessons were written after they moved to a different division. But the lessons are hyperlinked and they're in the curriculum and they're accounted for in the pacing. So I don't want to imply that they're not. I'm just saying it's a different approach when the two teams sit together and write everything together.
I saw the lessons, I read the lessons online, and then I asked, how are these lessons implemented and how are they monitored? And so from what I understand, the teachers one time per month on a Friday, pick up a folder and choose which lesson they would teach. And so to me, it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of oversight. It doesn't seem like it's actually being implemented. And I guess that's how we ended up with such steep budget cuts in this department, because it seems like it's not important.
I want to just chime. We are funding it more than double than a couple of years ago. Maybe we can have a part 2 CLRI and have the CLRI team on.
I think that's a great
Talk
idea.
about what they do.
But we also are looking to pass the budget like soon. So I kind of just want to make sure we have all these things nailed down and that is properly funded and it will be properly implemented into the curriculum this time.
So yes, I can guarantee it'll be properly implemented in the curriculum because we're reworking, like for example, social studies. It's starting from ground zero. So there will be nothing will feel like an add-on, I think is what you're asking. Yeah.
Okay, so last question. Sorry, I don't mean to be so, but it's just
No,
like,
it's okay.
it's been around for so long and it wasn't implemented. And, as an African-American woman, of course, we deal with so many different things as far as pushback to existing and especially in the schools, learning about, our cultures and other people learn about our cultures. And then I'm looking at things globally and it's like people don't know each other and people aren't learning about each other. And, this is a problem. It's been around for a very long time and we need to implement these things. So,
a lot of schools really do implement the lessons. We just don't have a way to prove it to you right now. But once we revise the coaching tool, we'll be able to account for that.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Anne.
Board Member Rodriguez, the floor is yours.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for everyone's questions. I just had a couple. So, one of the things I was wondering, because for every single person that thinks that this is important work, there are others who struggle in this area or maybe have concerns, who may think that agencies should push in and do this work. If I'm looking at a full-time person that's assigned to this role, Dr. Bucitelli, can you say a little bit about what their work is over the summer? And then I don't know if it's better if I ask all my questions at the first round, but the second question I have is, if I'm a teacher and I'm charged with teaching this and I'm having difficulty because of for whatever reason, how do I identify that and what help would be offered to those teachers if I'm struggling with any of the concepts or the language or my own lived experience and bias? And I think the third question, and I promise,
I'm gonna
'cause we are
forget
getting
these.
up there, that this is the last one, is looking at our bilingual schools. I think to Vice President Everhardt's question, you know, are there schools that are doing it really well, or because of the school culture or climate, CLRI needs to be done differently in those spaces? So first was kind of what's the work over the summer, and then the second was about the bilingual schools and how CRLI is rolled out. And then third, I'm switching the order, is if I'm a teacher and this is a difficult topic for me, for whatever reason, how do I ask for help, or what would that help look like?
Okay, so the last question, if I am a teacher who isn't sure about implementing the curriculum, I have a few outlets. So I have a guardian of equity at my school. So I can always approach that person, ask for feedback, ask for extra training. They also do a lot of book studies, so I can participate in that to become more acclimated to the culture. And then so sort of answering your first question and this question, the team in CLRI goes out to schools. They frequently meet with the guardians to ensure that the initiatives are being rolled out. So they have a pulse of what is happening in each building. So they'd probably be better able to answer specifics about a particular building, but that is their work. So they go out and support the guardians. They pull them monthly for turnkey sessions. They work on the disproportionality and the equity, the partner of equity partner and the guardian of equity both participate in that and bring the information back to the school level. So there's a number of layers. So you've got the equity partner, who is typically, I think, an assistant principal that participates in the disproportionality sessions. You've got the guardian of equity, who is a stipended member of the teaching staff. And then you've got the actual team in CLRI that can go out. So this year there were 3 administrators. There will continue to be 3 administrators. There's still 2 TOSAs. So they are able to go to the buildings and answer questions, potentially model for the teacher if necessary, but work with that team. And again, the book studies and things like that are an excellent way to participate. And there's also so many different PD opportunities. Like CLRT is a great example. That's a 2-day session. When Dr. Morell was here, she helped develop it. And then we turnkeyed it with a number of staff members. And then we partner with Umoja, who provides that for our teachers. So that's just a baseline that we expect all teachers to have, so that they understand what we're looking for when we talk about culturally responsive. And I think I probably missed one of your questions.
Well, it was just like kind of, if I'm looking at the school year, what are the activities, or how do we utilize our CLRI team over the summer, and kind of what are their activities over the summer? Because I think a lot of times when we think about funding full-time staff, folks are like, well, what do they do over the summer? What does that look like for them?
Okay, so the teachers are not full-time, so they don't work in the summer unless we bring them in for something specific. The 3 administrators will work in the summer. So they would be running the summer program, which is at East Academy or East High School this year. And then they would be planning for the upcoming year, just like the rest of our curriculum staff is planning for the new year. So they're ensuring that the curriculum is ready. They're working on professional development opportunities they want to offer. They start planning for disproportionality sessions. I know Director Bell already sent me her preferred dates for next year, so she's on the ball. They maintain a work plan, so we would be able to monitor what's happening with them on a regular basis. They'd be part of the Office of Academic Affairs meetings, the CAI team meetings, so they're embedded in that world and can partner with other teams.
Okay, thank you. That exhausts my questions. I have others, but I'm going to spare my colleagues and the public. Thank you so much.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry. I just have one more question, and
Sure.
then we can go. What about weekends and after school? How is that
So
staffed?
after school in 7th and 8th, they run the MBK, MSK program at various schools.
Right.
And then they also run Saturdays. I want to say it's 8 Saturdays throughout the course of the year. And then they have the Our Story project at the high school level. So that is also part of after school. And then they meet on Saturdays about 8 times per year. And then they also
Okay.
have that big field trip that they take.
Yeah. And
towards
you
the
have the staff for that for weekends too?
So they actually hire teachers for Saturdays. So they're not
Okay.
necessarily the team. They post and bring people in.
Got it. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have one more from VP Village.
Last. I just wanted to say, well, thanks for the presentation. This is really important work. I think we all look forward to strides being made. I just wanted to, I feel like we bring up student voice a lot, and I don't know if this is every building, but I know one of the buildings that one of my children are at, there is a CLRI team in the building that's made up of 2 students and 5 staff. So maybe we could just like what are best practices and then make sure each building adopts those. And yeah, even, I mean, it's phenomenal required reading. When you look at the reading, like the summer reading. And my son in 2012, he started pre-K in a bilingual program in public schools, but it was phenomenal. A lot of the work, cultural work that they did there too. But I guess welcome to CLRI, and then yeah, maybe we could have Director Bell or I don't know, email Chief Amos too.
Yes, we'd be happy to come back with the full team. Do you want to wait a little bit and they can talk about the work that they did over the summer and then some of their initiatives for the fall?
Sounds
Would that be good?
We'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, Chief Monticelli, I appreciate you with that great presentation. Thank you for the accountable answers. You can have them. Dr. Mubanga, you want to close this out?
Well done, Chief Monticelli, and I'm going to pass it back to who has the gavel? VP Zulich.
Do the honors. This is the end of student achievement and educational support, plus Stefan. Have a great night.